Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Ті, хто води всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 906 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again as elite Russian forces break the forces in Kursk, and also Ukraine advances very rapidly more into Russian territory. And it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, as we have gotten major news today that Ukrainian mechanized forces near to the area of Lyubomovka have been able to engage and destroy forward elements of the elite 810th Russian Naval Infantry Brigade that has been trying to hold back Ukrainian advances all the way in between the area of the Pokrovsk district and Lyubomovka as of today, with footage and proof of the 810th forces, from what we can understand, about a battalion-sized element routing from the field. Several company commanders were captured, and it seems that it was a massive success today, and even the Russian forces that are desperately being brought in incredibly large numbers at this point, including the elite 810th Naval Infantry Brigade, are facing incredibly arduous issues with the Ukrainian advance even as of today. It is a major piece of news, and it is, of course, once again showing us that even with more Russian forces being brought into this area to try and further fortify the Russian defenses and then prepare for a counterattack later on in the future, they still cannot stop the Ukrainian armed forces from being able to get decisive victories on these more elite forces and continue their push deeper into the area of the Kursk Oblast. We were also able to get major confirmation today and news that the bridge at Zavano is no longer usable. This was confirmed today. We had already gotten reports about this yesterday and had mentioned those as a footnote, but we have been able to get picture evidence today confirming that the bridge at Zavano has been largely destroyed and has been rendered unusable except for foot traffic, largely meaning that the Russian forces, the near battalion-sized element south of the Reka Seym, is now surrounded completely by the Ukrainian forces and have really no viable route of retreat except for the pontoon bridge about a mile and a half east of the town of Glishkovo. Not only that, we also got major news throughout the entirety of the area of Suja. We were able to finally get video footage of the Ka-52, or one of the Ka-52s that was shot down at the very opening of the offensive, and we were also able to see that the Ukrainians have captured more main battle tanks of the Russian armed forces that have been abandoned on the battlefield. At the exact same time, we've also been getting news from inside of Chechnya that the Chechens have unveiled a brand new and incredibly scary kind of a technical that may be used inside of Kursk incredibly soon and will be bringing an electrifying presence to the battlefield. Not only that, we've been able to also hear that Ukrainian forces have had a lot of interesting location unknowns today. I actually had to bring that up. We very rarely bring that up in the pre-stream summary, but a Russian engineer threw an anti-tank mine today that was armed. The results were quite shocking. Make sure to stick around for about the 30-minute mark in the stream to check that out, because it's pretty wild. Not only that, we did get to see some pretty wild battles going on around the area of Pokrovsk as well, and not only that, we did get to hear that a Russian drone was shot down by one of the Ukrainian S-300 systems active around Kherson. But we have a really large amount of news to cover today. Quite a good bit, but all of it largely being focused either inside the Kursk offensive, inside of Ukraine, and the only piece of news that we have that isn't a part of those is the one we have in Chechnya. But moving us on into that major news tonight, I'm going to be moving y'all up into the area of Lyubomovka and explaining what we saw today, because it was a massive change from the norm. Many people will remember that this area has been one of the most difficult fronts for the Ukrainians to advance in so far. While the Ukrainians have been having fairly decent success within the directions of Snegorsk, Korenivo, and Kromsky-Byky to the western side of their offensive, the offensive directions at Lyubomovka and even down in the Belovsky district have proved to be a little bit more challenging than those found in the west. That is largely because the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade was brought into this area of the Oblast a little bit earlier on in the offensive, around the third or fourth day, and was able to properly deploy their forces into the area, and then began to meet the Ukrainian forces and start to inflict a decent amount of casualties onto advancing columns, which we were able to mention over the past few days, and once again showing that offensive action in this area had largely come to a slow. From what we saw today, however, the Ukrainians have started to allocate a large amount of their combat power, or more so their firepower, into the specific direction of the front line and started to take on the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade head on. We actually have a little bit of information about the 810th Guards Naval Infantry Brigade. This is actually as a matter of fact, I want to put this out there. This is one of the few naval infantry brigades that is directly connected to the Black Sea Fleet. Now, a lot of people know that the Black Sea Fleet is a laughing stock of this war and has taken incredibly high losses to a country that largely has not had a navy. But I cannot emphasize enough the historical renown that there has been for Black Sea Fleet Naval Infantry. Black Sea Fleet Naval Infantry are considered some of the most elite infantry fighting forces of the Russian Federation and the Soviet Union throughout most of its history. The Black Sea Fleet's naval infantry proved itself with great valor during the Battle of Sevastopol in World War II, and also in multiple engagements throughout the rest of the Great Patriotic War, which is what the Soviet Union calls World War II. The 810th Separate Guards Order of Zhukov Naval Infantry Brigade, named for the 60th anniversary of the Soviet Union, which is the full name of the brigade. It's a pretty damn long one. Beyond that, it was founded in 1967, so this brigade was not specifically around for the actual Second World War, but it was created out of the Black Sea Naval Infantry. And this unit is considered to be one of the best that there is inside of the Russian Federation even still, and it has quite a pretty heavy hands, really, in the actions that unfolded from 2014 up to the invasion of Ukraine. It was the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade that actually drove out of the port of Sevastopol and annexed the entire Crimean Peninsula back in 2014. That was the brigade that did it. This unit is considered by many, and it's also considered by myself, largely by the analysis of them throughout their history, to be one of Russia's best infantry units. But they still, somehow, someway, could not go up against the might and firepower of a Ukrainian mechanized brigade that was largely equipped with Western equipment. We were able to see a small clip that we've been able to associate to the battle that happened in this area today. We got to see a Ukrainian striker engaging Russian forces in the distance, the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade, in this clip. And there's the striker.
Damn, son, they're letting them have it.
Man, I mean, they're putting down some heat. The battle, while we see in this one clip that they did have some mechanized elements in the area, like strikers using heavy machine guns to lay down fire on the Russians in the distance, they of course had heavier armor within this mechanized brigade, including some main battle tanks. From what we understand, those main battle tanks being used in this direction are largely either some sort of a T-72 variant, a T-64, or a T-80. Nevertheless, the firepower that the Ukrainians were able to leverage against the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade's forward combat battalions or combined armed battalions in this area today proved to be far too much, as it turned out that over the course of a few hours, most of the command staff of these units, the field grade officers actually commanding these companies, had either been killed or had actually been captured in rapid Ukrainian advances in this area. And we were able to see that for the first time ever that we've been able to document on video and picture evidence, the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade truly broke on the battlefield and began to go into a full-scale rout, at least on a battalion-sized level within the brigade. The 810th Naval Infantry Brigade, much like many other brigades, is made up of around 12 brigades, with 4 to 6 of those being combined arms brigades meant to actually engage and fight enemy forces, and the other remaining battalions are meant to support and sustain the enduring action that the other 6 combined arms battalions would actually be undergoing. But we can see in this clip right here, filmed by the 225th Battalion, which is a part, I believe, of the 173rd Territorial Defense Force, which is a mechanized brigade, we can see these Russian naval infantry going into a full rout, running from their positions and fleeing for the hills for the large part.
I've heard rumors that when they run behind their lines and they try to flee like this, that the Chechens are waiting to take them out. Is that true?
We've heard that I've heard that as well. We've heard that, but I've heard that as well. I can't really confirm that too much because we haven't gotten enough video or picture evidence to really confirm that, but there is reason to believe that the Akhmat is being used as some sort of a barrier force a little bit behind the lines. But moving on from that clip, we did get to see this as well. This was something that was very interesting. This is one of the company commanders from the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade. And we can see that according to the watermarks and the stamps, it seems as though the 225th Battalion, which is a attached combined arms battalion of the 173rd Territorial Defense Force, which is a mechanized brigade, appears to be the one that engaged the 810th today and ended up routing about a battalion-sized element off the field in this direction. Once again, we can corroborate that because the watermark on the last drone video showing the 810th in a rout, and this video showing this company commander, one of the company commanders that had been captured, both have the watermark of the 225th Battalion on it. And this is also suggesting that out of the 173rd Brigade, the 225th Battalion probably played a very large role today in the actual engagement that ended up with the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade's combat battalions running for the hills at the end of the battle. And so, moving on from that, here is this clip, and this is once again confirmed in the video to be one of the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade's company commanders.
Лейтенант Качев Андрей Андреевич, командир роты 1-го мотострелкового батальона 810-й бригады морской пехоты. Взят в плен 225-й ОШБ. Прошу обменять меня на пленных азовцев, защитников Мариуполя.
While you can't hear the guy, he did specifically mention that he was a company commander of one of the elements that was involved in that firefight and that he ended up surrendering. From what we understand, the Ukrainians ended up conducting another shock and awe sort of an attack in this battle, trying to make sure that they overwhelmed the enemy forces with superior firepower, rapidly closed the distance, while of course these forces were largely being shocked by the large volume of artillery fire, and then engaged them at close distance, breaking their lines of communication, breaking through their lines, and also ending up encircling some elements of the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade's forward forces, including this one company commander and several other soldiers as well. We didn't get video or picture evidence yet of a large amount of prisoners being taken in this battle. We're still waiting for that to come out because usually this stuff may take about a day or two for all of this to surface and us to have all of the information of this one specific battle that happened in this area. But from what we can tell, this is a massive success, and it is once again showing us something very important. Up until this point, especially in the areas around Glishkovo and really everywhere west of Suja, we have seen that the Russians do not have a viable defensive force within this area even yet. Most of the forces that are in the Korenivo direction specifically appear to be made up of conscript forces, either raised from the Russian Rosguardia or raised from the Russian Army's regular forces, but moved into the area, and of course conscript-based, have incredibly low morale. For this reason, we've seen that a large amount of prisoners are taken at a consistent rate within this direction, and that the fighting abilities of these units appear to be greatly weakened as well. Largely, these are considered a blocking force or a cover force. Well, more so a cover force than a blocking force, because a blocking force means that they're completely stopping any kind of an advance at really all costs. In reality, at best, the forces that have been dedicated to the Korenivo direction by the Russians can be best described as a cover force because they can engage and attack Ukrainian forces, but they do not have the morale, the means, or the firepower to really stop an advance. They only have the ability to try and slow it. So more so of a cover than any kind of a blocking force or, well, actually, hang on, let me get that correct. A screening force more so than a cover force. That's probably the better way to describe that, because I think I'm getting my terminology all mixed up right there because I'm trying to go through this and try and think about what I'm saying 3 sentences ahead. But beyond that, unlike the area near Korenivo and the Korenivo direction as a whole, and also the area south of Glishkovo, where there's extremely small amounts of Russian resistance in the terms of available Russian forces in number, which is only about a battalion sized, which is about 700 guys, over here in the area in between Lyubomovka and all the way down to Belaya, apparently the entire 810th Naval Infantry Brigade, and it's about 12 battalions, are stretched out in between this area at the moment, and they have been trying to conduct some fairly considerable defensive efforts. They're not trying to conduct screens, they're actually trying to conduct covers, or largely block the Ukrainians from making any advances further into Kursk. And so far, they actually have been able to achieve that largely within the Lyubomovka direction, as we have seen that over some of the past few days, Ukrainian forces have been taking higher losses in this area and have not been advancing any farther than their actual point of contact at the moment near Lyubomovka. This is a very big day because of that reason. We have seen that the Ukrainians never really were hitting the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade incredibly hard until today, and they've hit them hard enough that, from what we understand, an entire battalion ended up collapsing from their positions and routing from the front line, leaving a fairly large gap in the area and also allowing for some valuable commanders on the company level to be captured, probably giving them a much better idea after they interrogate these prisoners of war, the kind of force composition that the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade's battalions, the combined armed battalions have, their defensive strategies, probably a little bit of a larger overview of where these Russian forces actually are spread out and where some of the stronger points of their defenses may be, and all of this will help the Ukrainians later on, and Ukrainian commanders at higher echelons, to be able to battle plan accordingly and make sure that they attack the Russians in their weakest and most vulnerable points on this defensive line that the 810th is on, instead of the strongest points, and then finding that out through trial and error. But still, today was an absolutely incredibly, wildly good day in this direction, and it is showing that this front may end up having even more advances that we haven't heard about yet, but I'm expecting we'll probably hear about sometime on in the future. But moving on from that and on over into probably the other biggest piece of news that we have from this area today, this brings us down to the Glishkovo-Zvino area, and I just got to tell y'all, it's beautiful. It's absolutely incredible, because yesterday, I talked about how the Glishkovo Bridge had been knocked out and how this was going to have a huge, unbelievably major impact on the Russian Federation's armed forces south of the Reka Seym. And a lot of people, not many people here on this channel, but a lot of people in the comments section on the video that was put out yesterday were saying, "Oh, Enforcer, you don't know what you're talking about. The bridge up in Zvino, it's still operational." I had already gotten information at that point that the bridge had largely been damaged to the point it was unusable, but I didn't have any picture or video evidence to confirm that as of yesterday. But I still went with the report that this bridge had already been under significant fire and had been largely damaged beyond the point of usability, and so I went with that story yesterday, although a lot of people wanted to say that that's not true at all, and that makes absolutely no sense, although logically any commander within the area wouldn't just try and piecemeal knock out one bridge at a time. They would knock out one bridge and ensure that the other paths of retreat are most likely unusable or completely gone, and so we went with that statement yesterday. It turned out that that statement was absolutely true, because we were able to get picture evidence today that the bridge at Zavano is completely out for anything beyond pedestrian traffic. This is a picture of the bridge as it sits today. From what we understand, this damage was inflicted yesterday when I made the statement that that this bridge was also under fire and was also largely knocked out as well, although not technically completely destroyed. We can also see right here that they do confirm that this is the bridge at Zavano, and if you want any further confirmation, we can zoom down into the area around the bridge at Zavano, and you can see that the picture was taken from this side of the bridge, south of the Reka Seym, looking north, because you can see the larger field beyond. You can also see this hill that's further back here, well, actually further back here, right up here near Budki, in the picture. That is right back there. And you can also see the end of the tree line over here, which is just right here. And you can see the beginning of the other tree line over here to the far right over here. So this is, in fact, the bridge at Zvino. And we were able to get that dead on the nail. The bridge has been completely knocked out for any kind of vehicular traffic. Now, foot traffic is still possible, at least on the small part of the bridge on the eastern side that still exists. Well, actually, yeah, that is the eastern side. You can still walk across that, although it's not heavily advised, and you're not really going to be getting a lot of people across that bridge at any small given moment of time. It'll take quite a while to get 700 Russian soldiers across pretty much what we can describe as a small footbridge at this point, and it probably can't support a lot of weight either, and even still, this small part of the span may be compromised to the point it's really unusable as well. But this is confirmed.
Also, what do you think they're using to hit these bridges? Because I can't tell, but I heard some people saying it could be ATACMS or maybe just regular artillery, but, well, what's causing like these massive holes? Because I know it looks like the bridge is constructed probably out of like timber or something like that, and then a layer of asphalt on top of it, but that's a huge hole. So what do you think the weapon is that they're using?
We've heard a couple of different things today. We've heard that one of them may be the GBU-39, and I'll go pull up a picture of that really quickly, because we have been able to confirm that the Ukrainian Air Force is active in the area at the moment and is conducting airstrikes. But from what we know, the GBU small diameter bomb pictured here, may be one of the bombs that is being used at the moment to strike these bridges. They're not incredibly big. They are a small diameter bomb, so it's not an incredibly large payload or incredibly large warhead. To give a bit of an idea, the warheads are usually just about over 100 pounds in size for some of the larger ones, and even still, they're even smaller in some other cases, being about 50 pounds. But beyond that, we have believed that this may be a fairly common bomb that is being used to try and knock out these bridges. Another one that has been put out is that it's the M855. No, it's not the M855. It's the Excalibur.
Could it be a JDAM? You know, like a JDAM ER with the 2,000-pound bomb on it?
No, because while those would certainly be big enough to knock them out, we don't believe that it's going to be something that the Ukrainian Air Force could use, because they probably have to drop that at a pretty considerable altitude to be able to get that bomb to glide all the way to the target. So that one's largely being excluded right now. But there has been some argument that these bridges are being damaged a little bit by M982 Excaliburs fired from 155 millimeter artillery pieces off in the distance near Snigost. This is not really that likely of an option, considering that the explosive mass of one of these shells is about 30 kilograms, I believe. It's not that heavy. Actually, it's only about 12 pounds for the actual warhead weight, so it's not really that heavy of a round. It could cause damage, sure, but we don't really think it to be enough to cause structural damage. These kinds of rounds are usually used against lighter targets like infantry or vehicles or something along those lines that could be pierced and destroyed fairly easily. Another one that we have heard is, of course, the HIMARS is most likely being used. This one has a lot of credibility behind the story, because from what we understand, the M142 HIMARS and its M39 and M40 rockets could pose a decent amount of damage and do a lot of considerable destruction to the kind of bridges that we're seeing in this area. So this seems to be one of the more likely stories that we're seeing. So it could be that M142 HIMARS are firing at the bridges with M39 and M40 GMLRS rockets, and then later on a GBU-39 or some other similar form of airdropped ordnance is used to finish off these bridges. But that's largely what we're thinking at the moment.
Interesting. And also, I saw someone on Twitter today saying, and I know Twitter's not a very good source, but is it possible that the JASSM is being used here? Because I don't think Ukraine has the ability to use that inside of Russia at the moment, because there's restrictions on it. But could that be like the shape of like what a JASSM hit would look like on the bridge?
Let's see here. Let me see what the warhead size on that is. It is... Oh my goodness. It's 1,000 pounds. No, it's a 1,000 pound bomb. That's actually pretty big. But let's see here. What is the range on this thing? We need to find out a lot of information on this. So 230 miles. I would doubt it, because this is so close to the Ukrainian border. I don't believe they would want to waste a longer range missile like that, or a longer range kind of a... Well, let me make sure it is. Yeah, it is a missile. I don't think they would want to use a long-range missile like that on a bridge at Glishkovo or Zevano, because from the border, just saying that they dropped it from the border, it's only 7 miles away from the border. You could actually fire at that with a 155 millimeter artillery piece 15 miles away with an Excalibur round, and you would be pretty deep inside of Ukraine at that point. So I would not think that the JASSMs are being used, because it would be a very inefficient way to use such a long-range missile with such a large warhead. They're probably using smaller weapons that have much shorter ranges instead.
I would have to agree with that as well. And also, like I said, I think there are restrictions on it, so it probably couldn't be used. But I just wanted to bring that up, as I saw a lot of people mentioning that earlier.
I would doubt that greatly, in my opinion. I wouldn't really take that to the bank, because using, like, we have to remember, everyone, that while Ukraine does have quite a large amount of incredibly interesting and incredibly cool weapons that the West has provided to them, at the same time, there are economics at play in the middle of a war. You can't always use a JASSM missile or a Storm Shadow missile to hit every single target. It doesn't make economic sense at the end, because a Storm Shadow, let's say that a Storm Shadow hit this bridge, because that's a missile that we're all fairly familiar with. The Storm Shadow costs about $3 million per unit, and it has about a 250-mile range. So if we're saying that this thing is only 7 miles into Russia, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to use this missile that potentially could hit a target 250 miles away, and it costs about $3 million per shot. We wouldn't waste that on something that is 7 miles into the area around Russia. particularly around Glishkovo. We would probably use something a lot cheaper. We would either just bombard it heavily with artillery rounds from oh my lord, M777s. There we go. I was trying to think of the name, or a Caesar, or any kind of 155 millimeter artillery piece, or we would hit them with small diameter bombs dropped by an aircraft, because the flight time per hour of an aircraft and also the cost of that bomb is still cheaper than firing a JASSM at this thing. And not only that, it's just generally more economical, and there's a larger amount of GBU-39s in Ukraine right now than there would be JASSM, Storm Shadows, or ATACMS. So once again, it's using what is available and what would be best suited for the mission, instead of just trying to use the biggest and most impressive thing every single time. Because if you use, like, let's say you have one Storm Shadow missile, right, and you hit that bridge at Glishkovo with it, well, you hit that target that was only 8 miles into Russia, really from any direction that you're at, either whether it's from Snogost or actually from the Ukrainian-Russian border. You hit that thing with a $3 million missile with a 250-mile range. So the next time you want to attack the Kerch Bridge, then you only have GBU-39s, and GBU-39s only have a 50 to 140-pound warhead, and they have to be airdropped onto their target, meaning that they have a much shorter range than the JASSM would, meaning that a strike on the Kerch is now impossible because you use the weapon that would have hit the Kerch Bridge on something that you could have used the GBU-39 on instead. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense at all to use a JASSM or any kind of a larger weapon like that. We're assuming it's something a lot more conventional, like we were talking about a moment ago. But nevertheless, moving on from that, we also did get to see, speaking of GBU-39s, that some of the Russians near Zavano actually were hit today by GBU-39s, dropped from MiG-29s in the area. So once again, adding a lot to the validity that it would probably may have been a GBU-39 that was dropped onto the bridge that ended up finishing it off. And we can see those little GBU-39s hitting right there, 2 of them simultaneously.
It's got some potent punching powder, power, I would say.
Powder?
Powder. Yeah, powder. Man, punching powder.
Man, I'm telling you what, man, that punching powder, though. Like, yar, that'd be some fine Peruvian punching powder. But anyways, with that, that's the end of the clip. Of course, nice to see them using some GBU-39s on the Russian forces in the area, and hopefully causing a decent amount of damage, at least to the small Russian garrison, that for some reason is still south of the Reka Seym and is not trying to retreat. We are currently at a loss to explain why they are not retreating. There is no chance of any kind of resupply effectively happening at this point, and reinforcements arriving to fortify their positions, so we do not know why the order has not been issued for them to retreat north of Reka Seym at the moment. From what we know, the entire battalion element unit that is south of the Reka Seym is still there at the moment, and we're still waiting to see them actually engage the Ukrainian forces. They're not going to turn into a guerrilla fighter unit, that's for sure. They'll probably just end up surrendering en masse, or get partially destroyed or completely destroyed in the fighting that's soon to follow. But still, a little interesting note that they haven't actually left the area yet. But moving on from that and that fine punching powder, we're now moving on into the area of Korenivo, where we actually got to see a Ukrainian soldier driving through Korenivo and showing that some heavier fighting has happened in this area, and apparently the Ukrainians and the Russians may have been using a considerable amount of artillery during the fighting inside of Korenivo.
Damn, that place is leveled.
Yeah, it's going through some tough times. And that's,
it's crazy. You see all the Russian soldiers surrendering day after day, and then you see this, and it's like, it seems like they're putting up some, but not enough to like ward off the Ukrainians from advancing. It's kind of weird to see this kind of destruction, and also the raw amount of surrendering that's happening.
Yeah, from what we know, most of the surrenders are happening around the wooded areas, more so the rural areas. In some of the towns, we are seeing some effective resistance being made, and I'm supposing that's because the Ukrainians aren't able to maneuver as rapidly and quickly and overwhelm and surround Russian forces inside of the towns as easily as they do out in the countryside surrounding the towns, showing that maneuver warfare appears to be the most advantageous option for the Ukrainians right now in this offensive, although it seems as though they really don't have many options, especially around Korenivo, because the western flank of the town is right near the Reka Seym, so there's really no flanking action to be had there. And not only that, to the eastern flank, there are some choke points that would be seen at Vitrino and Durovka because of the lakes that exist in this area, meaning that the Russians still wouldn't really be outflanked that easily around Korenivo. Their defenses may actually stand an okay chance still because of the natural geography of the area. But moving on from that, we also got to see that inside of Kornivo, some Ukrainians took the chance to actually put their feet on and stamp on the Russian coat of arms that's sitting in the middle of the street. I gotta say, that's actually a pretty cool picture. Pick goes hard.
It does go hard. They can use it as a nice rug. Just wipe the mud off every day on that. Just use it as your daily rug mat.
Man, I gotta say, it is beautiful right there. And of course, I hope that we get to see even more stuff like this. I mean, it would be absolutely incredible to see. Good to know that the Ukrainians are making sure to clean their feet with some of the best floor mats you've ever seen. The seal of the Russian Federation. An incredibly high honor to wipe one's feet on. But moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see another striker in the Kursk Oblast. This one was south of Kornivo from what we know. And we can also see a Russian babushka riding around on a bike, passing by this Ukrainian striker right here. She appears to be fairly happy. It doesn't seem like she's really that mentally disturbed by the Ukrainians showing up here and doing what they're doing. Kind of just seems like she's chilling. So good on her. And not only that, this striker also has the automated 50 caliber turret, meaning that the entire crew can stay inside the vehicle protected from harm and operate the 50 BMG without actually having to have an operator physically holding and firing the M2 that's on top of it. So that's actually pretty cool to see. But there is one kind of a striker that, I'll be entirely honest with y'all, I hate that the Ukrainians didn't get it. And so let me see if I can go get this one here and show it to y'all. And let me scroll down a little bit. It is really cool, and when y'all see it, y'all will know what I mean. And I'm still trying to find it. Here we go. This one. This one, from what I remember, has a 30mm Bushmaster in the turret, so it actually has more firepower than a Bradley's main gun, which is a 25mm Bushmaster. So this thing is actually pretty beefy and has a decent amount of firepower. Of course, at this point, though, it's largely changed from being an IFV, an infantry fighting vehicle, and it's more so moved on into the category of being something of a light support vehicle or a light tank, or a light wheeled tank, if you want to call it that, although that's a bit of a stretch. But still, it is a pretty interesting, pretty neat vehicle. I hate to see that the United States never gave them any of these. From what we know, they gave them every variant of the Striker except for this one, because we've never seen any picture or video evidence confirming the existence of these Strikers inside of Ukraine. But these certainly would be adding a lot of firepower to any kind of mechanized brigades that these would be integrated into. And I would hope that we could see some of these eventually arrive in Ukraine at some point in the future. Let me see if there's...
And also, not to mention, they look really cool too. Like, the design of that thing is really sick looking compared to the other vehicles that they've gotten in the past.
Dude, 100%. I'm trying to see if I can find another picture for us really quickly. Also, here's the MGS, the Striker Mobile Gun System. This thing was largely considered a failure, sadly, but I thought it was incredibly cool. Let me show it to y'all right here real quick. That thing is incredibly cool. I mean, this was neat.
What's that orange junk on the back, though? Is that, I can't see it from here. Is that gas cans or something?
I think it's some kind of like a safety flag thing that they put on the back of the turret.
Oh. Okay, yeah. I was about to say, that's a weird place to put gas cans. That'd be like a really, really bad spot to get hit by the enemy. But, you know, it's just a safety flag. What do you know? I can't see that well. It's like a little dot on the screen over there.
It's just simply for safety, Matthew. But nevertheless, this thing had a 105mm gun. The entire thing was automated. It had an autoloader inside of the turret. But from what was said about this vehicle that led to it being a failure is that the autoloader was fairly finicky and ended up running into a decent amount of issues, meaning that there was a failure to load a decent amount of the time.
Interesting. I hate to hear that too, because it looks cool.
I mean, this thing was incredibly cool. It would be neat to see some of these going into Ukraine, because only 142 of them were made, and it has been retired due to operational deficiencies. And so, why not let the Ukrainians take on just a small part of these operational deficiencies and get the kind of light firepower that a mechanized brigade would really love to have? But still, failure to load issues are very serious, because if you go into battle with one of these things and you fire the main gun and then it attempts to reload and the autoloader fails to load the main gun, the vehicle truly turns at that point into just another Striker, and it could be in a fairly rough situation at that point, meaning that it probably will end up being destroyed. But still, a pretty neat system, and I think that the Army was onto something with this, but then they decided, just to kind of like tell you all the full circle with this thing, they then decided to actually invest money into a weapons development and research program to actually develop a real light tank to fill the light tank role in the Army, and now they've ended up creating the M10 Booker, which is the new light tank that the Army is going to be adopting over the next few years.
I'll be honest with you. This is a little bit. Why is it so low or something? Something about it. The proportions are off. Like it's a little too low or something. From that angle, it doesn't look too bad, but from the other angle, it looks pretty rough.
Well, these things are supposed to have a lower profile, be lighter armored, and a lot more mobile, while also having considerable firepower, because these things are meant to operate with lighter units, like a mechanized or a motorized brigade, instead of a armored brigade, where speed isn't really the necessity, it's more about firepower at that point.
Interesting. Well, I like it. I like it.
I think it's pretty cool. And also, the fact that this thing can get up to a top speed of 45 miles per hour as a light tank, that is actually pretty impressive as just a matter of fact. A lot of light tanks can't get up to that kind of speed, so this thing is considered incredibly fast, at least for its size category. Not only that, the main gun, if I'm correct, it is a 105 millimeter main gun. So this thing actually is pretty punchy for a light tank. It is hardly less powerful than an Abrams in terms of firepower. The original Abrams actually were introduced into service with a 105 millimeter main gun instead of a 120 millimeter main gun, like all the M1A1 and the M1A2 variants have in the modern day. So this thing is actually pretty solid, but that's a whole rabbit hole for another time. Just talking about light vehicles and the ones that we gave to Ukraine and the kind of stuff that we could see there if someone would just give it to them. Of course, I wouldn't give them the M10 Booker. That's brand new, and there's probably a lot of proprietary technology in a design like that we wouldn't want possibly falling into Russian hands, but maybe a Striker with a 30 millimeter Bushmaster turret, I mean, that wouldn't be that bad. I think that would be incredibly good, and that would really give the Ukrainians a little bit of that extra punch and powder, you know what I mean? But
oh yeah, you're not gonna let me live that one down, man. That's gonna become like the leaf spring thing from now on.
Man, it was good though. I liked it, man. Punching powder actually sounds really cool for some reason. But moving on,
I'm gonna trademark that.
Man, we're gonna have to trade. We're gonna have to trademark and copyright it, Matthew. And then someone's gonna go, "Aw, man, I've got that punching powder too."
I'm gonna steal it. Oh man.
Man, I'm telling you. But anyways, we did get to see more Russian prisoners taken in the Kromsky-Bicky area today as well.
Скажи еще раз.
Что сказать?
Ну, что ты сказал только что?
Я счастлив, что я попал в вашу руку.
Откуда ты?
С Грозного.
Ты?
Грозно, счастлив, что вас попал.
Громче.
Счастлив, я попал в
Let
вашу
him eat
руку.
dirt.
Dude, well, this guy, I don't know what kind of a cap that is, but it's an interesting one, that's for sure.
Ты счастлив, да? А третий, эй ты. Он тоже счастлив?
Да.
Вы все счастливы?
Да, мы сами сдали.
Вы сами знали.
Вы сдали.
Вы красавчики. Воины.
Это вы красавчики.
Да.
Защищайте свою родину.
Does anybody else find it kind of interesting that the devil keeps taking these guys captive? Like, it's the devil every time, like on these videos. Like, he's filming them talking about, look what I got today.
Man, I'm telling you what, man, if only one of these guys had a fiddle. I mean, the devil went down to Kursk. He was looking for a soul to steal. He was in a bind. He was way behind. He was looking to make a deal. And he saw an old Russian sitting on a hickory stump playing a tune, and he came up to him. And he'd like do like the whole song and everything, like make it like Russified. These guys would still lose, but nevertheless, at least the devil would have a little bit of a run for the money. But dude, I would hate to be a Russian, and I go, "Don't shoot, I surrender," and someone across the way goes, "Oh yeah," I'll be like, "Oh no, never mind. I don't surrender. I don't give up." Like the devil's over there.
We'll have to go up against Kadarov's men against the devil.
Oh man, I'm telling you what, man. Oh man.
But
А почему вы воюете на нашей родине?
Мы
Нам
не
на войну
знаем.
не сказали, честно.
Кинул, правда. Я жил в Питере. Работал. Меня звонили каждый день. Меня не давали жить там. И вот так сюда приехал.
Красавчики. Oh man, well it's good to see that a couple of other Russian soldiers were captured, And of course, wonderful to know that the Ukrainian army keeps on using the devil to capture them.
Someone's about to legitimately make a conspiracy theory off of my statement, like no joke, that we will probably see videos, Matthew, on the pro-Russian side, like next week, and they're going, Ukraine is using the devil. And it'll be like a whole 40-minute video about how the devil works for Ukraine or something. It'll be something
That
like
would be a hard. That would be a hard one since they also use the devil voice as well, and they're like masking of their voice as well. They use the same thing, so that wouldn't work that well. And also, we know the truth; those are the devil on the ground that they actually have in custody. Actually, right there, it's the Russians.
Man, but the truth is, Matthew, you are angel when work overtime, but devil when asked salary.
Ah, yes, the good old Chinese door manufacturing proverb.
The ancient the ancient Chinese proverbs. But moving on from that, speaking of something ancient, this video actually came from day 2 of the offensive into Sudzha, and we got to see one of those Ka-52s that got shot down. Check this out. There it is. And there he goes. Isn't that funny? Look at that. Wow.
And also, huge shout to BC Skyman, by the way. He's throwing in a ton of support tonight. Huge thanks to you, BC.
And I gotta say, huge thanks to BC Skyman coming in clutch. Absolute legend, BC Skyman. And thank you so much once again. And we can see right there the Ka-52 schmoldering on the ground. That thing is dumfo. But still, beautiful to see that the Ka-52 get hit. Once again, showing, and I gotta say this, folks, we had this story down pat because sometimes on this channel, I do work with the little information that we have, and I fill in the blanks with what the most logical scenario would be to lead to this conclusion. I said back in the day, when those Ka-52s were shot down, because all we had at that point was reports from the Ukrainian MOD of their shooting down, I said that those helicopters probably flew very close to the Ukrainian forces on the ground, probably were trying to strafe them with their main gun, and then they ended up being engaged by manpads and shot down at pretty much point-blank range. And that's exactly what happened, because the helicopter went down right here. And this is literally just about a half-mile away from the Ukrainian-Russian border. So this thing was point-blank range with them, and did end up getting shot down and pretty much in the face by a manpad. From what we know, it ended up taking out both the pilot and the co-pilot of the helicopter as well, so we didn't even get to see this time if the Ka-52 ejection system actually works or not. It's still largely a mystery whether you can actually eject out of that helicopter or not, because we've only seen one person actually live from that ejection process. So with that, we're moving on from that little bit of news and on into Sudzha, where we got to see that the Ukrainians are now confiscating Russian cop cars and using them in the offensive. Look at that.
That is cool, man. Also, by the way, I can't tell what model of vehicle that is, but that's some sort of SUV they're using for a cop car, which is kind of weird. It looks like maybe a Nissan or something. I can't tell.
It looks like it may be, but we can see right there, Matthew, it says right in Russian, Politia, meaning police. And then it says right here, let's see, PPC, OMVD, Rossi, Po, Sudzhaskomi Rayon. So this is the
It translates to, we're not going to save you, we're going to rob you blind when you call us, so don't call us.
Yeah, we're going to shake you down. Like, that's what it translates to.
It's going to be a world-class shakedown out here.
But what this actually translates to is the Russian police of the Sutsky district, if you want to call it that, kind of like the Belovsky district in the oh my lord, am I forgetting the name? I am forgetting the name. The Glishkovo district. This was the Sudzha district that it says right here, because it says Sudzhan Skomi Rayon, which means something along the lines of the Sudska district. But nevertheless, we can see that they put the telephone down here for the police in the local area, all that stuff. And then you can see the little Ukrainian triangle over here for the offensive campaign marking, showing that this is now being used by the Ukrainian army. Pretty cool to see. I love to see this kind of stuff because it's showing that the Ukrainians are really taking advantage of the situations that arise. They can confiscate vehicles like these without any really like big frill or ceremony to have to do it. They're government vehicles of the Russians that were captured. They can immediately press them into military service. So pretty great to see them doing something like that. And moving on from that and into our next bit of news, we also got to see that apparently the Ukrainian Corn Group is now taking it upon themselves to fight for the Russians against alcoholism. Many people know that alcoholism is a plague against the Russian Federation's people, and a lot of Russians die every single day from alcohol poisoning. Actually, one of the few countries in the world where this is a major pressing health concern of the public, and the government is constantly trying to put attention into it. It seems as though, Matthew, the Korn Group has taken it upon themselves within the occupied areas to try and clear out Russian liquor stores of liquor the best way they can by declaring war on the liquor. Here's the clip.
Начинав? Хорн груп проти спиртного.
Oh, damn.
Вогонь!
No!
They just lit up the
It's
liquor!
like the Russians' worst nightmare.
Dude, this is actually going to start creating like partisan uprisings behind the lights. Watching
This
it
is
clip.
terrible.
Dude, you know, some Russian just had their like child die in the war last year, and they didn't even give a damn. They watched this clip and they went, "No, Smirnov!" Like, you know, they were like that, man, because this is, dude, for the Russians, this is war now. Like, they're looking at this video like this guy down here on this ice cream cooler is looking at that popsicle, absolutely mogging looking at it.
Man, I have a theory that if the entirety of Russia went non-alcoholic, they were not allowed to have vodka, I think that they might overthrow Putin. I think he knows that they have to have their vodka flowing, or otherwise it's going to be over for his regime.
Man, I'll be honest with you, man. If the entirety of Russia went sober, I think it would look like The Purge, but every day of the week. Like, I think people would be like, "Fed up with this. Like, I make no money. My life sucks. I'm going to get him." It's like, dude, I don't know if Russia being sober would be good. Like, I'm not entirely sure, but still. Nevertheless, we have heard that Putin has already charged these soldiers in this video with crimes against humanity. So, I'm just kidding, of course, about that, but still, pretty wild to see that they're starting to declare war on the booze. But moving on from that, we also got to see a really heartwarming moment in Sudzha as well, as a Ukrainian soldier gave some of his rations to a young Russian child within the town. Of course, a hearts and mind kind of a thing, but here's the clip. Also, we can see that this water truck right here was requisitioned by the Ukrainians, as we can see that it has the white triangle markings on it, and it appears that it's distributing water to Russians that may no longer have access to viable water sources.
Now, see, that's something you won't see the Russians doing in Ukraine, is doing civil services like this. This is good to see.
It is really nice to see.
Nothing like watering the population.
Да ничего страшного, это ж.
You know, honestly, these are the people right here that really just get caught up in the war and stuff, and they really, really don't deserve it, like the children and the old women and stuff like that. Like, that's the part right there that I'm glad the Ukrainians actually have their humanity still left about them, and during this war, to actually care for these people.
I completely agree. It is nice to see a little bit of humanity here and there, and it's good to see that the Ukrainians are trying to treat the folks in the occupied areas as civilly as they can, given the circumstances that it is an ongoing war zone. But we did get to see that while all of this humanity and all of these acts of compassion, whether the Russians like it or not, inside of Sudzha, like destroying the liquor store, we did also get to see that the Ukrainians did end up capturing another T-80 BVM today. This one actually came from the Vovchansk front, and apparently was a part of one of the units that was pulled from Vovchansk and rapidly raced northwards, because we can see that it does have the Vovchansk campaign marking on the side of the tank. So this does confirm that this tank came as a part of the QRF that the Russians created at the very beginning of the offensive. But still, the Ukrainians did end up capturing it today, and we can see this picture here, and we can also see this picture here of this beautiful looking T-80 BVM. T-80 BVMs are some of the most modern and advanced Russian main battle tanks that are currently in service. As far as Russian tanks go, the best tanks that are in service currently are the T-90Ms and the T-80 BVMs. Those two are about par on par technologically and ability-wise, so this is about as good as seeing a T-90M come under Ukrainian control as well. So with that, very nice to see they were able to get another one of those. And moving on down and into the area around Belitsa, we also got to see another Russian soldier surrendering to the Ukrainians.
Нормальными пациками, да? Ну, братанчик, просто для себя. Скажи просто, ты откуда сам?
С Воронежа.
Области.
Воронеж сам.
Мобилизованный, да? Сколько років?
Oh, hello there.
Сколько лет тебе?
39.
39. Что именно, в каких войсках, часть и Вот
This guy
можешь
was
это
saved from
назвать?
those blasted Chechens waiting for him behind the
Как
lines.
у вас называется?
Man, this poor guy, he wouldn't have had a fun time back there, I'm telling you.
Рота пехоты. Сдався в плен. Будет жить. Так що беріть примір, може це попаде
Не
десь.
говорите никому, что тут, блядь, ебаный, как там, нацизм или как там. Пиздешь, что, ребята.
Покажи, чем тебе украинцы, что тебе доверили.
Какой аппарат, я первый раз даже видел. Если бы мне раньше было дали, я бы еще, может, блядь, и побегал.
What the hell? Was that a drone gun?
Українці доверили, блядь, русскому
I don't
нахуй,
know.
не побратиму, ну.
А мне дали ржавый автомат, нахуй, который...
Looks
был,
like it.
по-моему, что-то.
Yeah, it looks a little like it.
Все, братики, трогаем, да?
Спасибо.
Все, давай. Как-то так. Все, осталось теперь пройти 2 километра, и мы дома. Обнял, побежал. Ставьте лайки, блядь.
And that's the end of that clip, but showing another Russian prisoner that was taken today. And once again showing us that as far as the offensive in Kursk is going, it's going incredibly well. We are seeing that the Ukrainians are finally breaking the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade. Really the only heavy resistance we've seen so far in the offensive has come from that brigade, and now it appears that they may be on the back foot as well, much like many other offensive fronts. The Ukrainians have been able to knock out any path of retreat over the Reka Seym for the Russians south of that today. Another major victory, and once again, a decent amount of surrenders happening throughout the area. We haven't gotten a lot of news on the Belgorod incursions at the moment. We do understand that these front lines have remained unchanged from the last time we updated them, but we haven't gotten enough video and picture evidence to confirm or deny any kind of real changes that have been made beyond this point. So we are going to be waiting to see if anything does happen in this area that we can start to report on some more, but for now, it seems as though the Ukrainians are holding these areas and the situation has been somewhat eventful, at least as far as we can confirm. But moving on out of that, it's time for us to start moving on into the rest of Ukraine. Oh, wait a minute. No. Hang on. I forgot, everyone. I've got to take y'all down to Chechnya. This one last thing before we get into Ukraine. It's just this tiny little thing. And of course, before we get to it, I've got to tell y'all something that's a bit of a disclaimer. A lot of people have been putting it out today that Elon Musk actually gifted the Cybertruck to Ramzan Kadyrov. From what we can confirm, that story is a complete fabrication by Russian propagandists. Yes, Ramzan Kadyrov did come into the possession of a Cybertruck, but from what we understand, this Cybertruck was imported into Russia through some sort of a back door, some sort of a shell company that bought the Cybertruck in another neutral third-party country, and then through a pretty complicated rigmarole, they eventually shipped it from that neutral third-party country and into Russia. So this was not a direct gift by Elon Musk to Ramzan Kadyrov, from what we know, but we did get to see that Kadyrov did convert a Cybertruck into a technical and drove it around today in this weird kind of like a stunt thing. So here's the clip. And when you see
Why do
him,
you look like an utter goober driving this truck?
dude, you know what he looks like, man? Like with the hoodie on and everything and that haircut, he looks like your average like dude here in the South, like going to work like at a repair shop. It's like he doesn't really look like the leader of a Chechen republic or anything like that. Oh, this thing looks goofy.
I'm just asking for a friend, but where do you get the mount from for the gun?
That is a good question.
I'm not gonna lie either. Like nothing against Tesla or anything like that. If you like their cars, great. The Cybertruck, I've seen them in real life. That thing is god awful ugly. Like I don't know what was up with the design with this thing, but it's rough.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking rough. I'm not going to lie.
I've seen people pulling like side panels off the side of the thing, like just glued on. What the hell's he doing racing around the parking lot? It's just like, so tough. He's a tough guy. He doesn't leave the compound.
He drives around the presidential palace at dawn. He doesn't leave it at dawn. Also, that PKP looks so wrong on this truck because the truck is like a polygonal, low-resolution PS2 kind of a texture. The machine gun is like this highly detailed kind of a thing compared to the truck. It doesn't jive. Like they should have designed a specific machine gun or at least a machine gun shroud to go on this thing so that way it didn't look so stupid, but it looks pretty stupid. Is that a golf cart? That's a golf cart.
Looks like it. Also, look at that Mercedes up there and stuff. Like, Kadyrov's, like, his whole country lives in poverty, and he's driving Cybertrucks, he's got golf carts, he's got Mercedes, G-Wagons, and, like, Bentleys. It's like, this guy's just despicable.
Man, you know what's crazy, though, is that they sit there and they go, I hate the West of Dawn. I really do. I hate the West of Dawn. And then they just worship everything from the West. They're like, look, I got a Cybertruck of Dawn. Look, I got the Mercedes of Dawn. It's like if everything we had sucked so much, why do y'all want it so badly? You know, like it's stupid.
He said, I hate the West because they make me spend all my money.
I gotta. Oh no.
Oh, get those off.
No.
Get those off.
Look at this ghoul wearing this hoodie. Dude, what the hell is he supposed to be? The Grim Reaper? Dude, the only thing that he's reaping are those hamburgers, the number 7 special down at the local burger store. This looks wrong. Someone needs to tell him to stop while he's behind, because this is bad looking right here. Looking like the damn Grim Reaper discounted version. This is ridiculous looking right here. Oh, look, I have the machine gun bullets wrapped around me at dawn, so that way I can't use them at dawn. Why aren't they in the damn machine gun, ammunition case beside the machine gun at dawn? I don't know, Dawn. I thought it looked kind of cool at dawn.
Bro is hip with the kids. He's got that hoodie. He's got these sick edits. He's got the firearms, the Cybertruck. Katarov's going for Gen Z.
Dude, this guy is trying to be the Russian version of Whistling Diesel, but he will never be as good as Whistling Diesel. He can kiss his ass. It's like...
This dude's whistling crook.
Dude, this guy is whistling bullets. Like some crap like that. When he said Dawn right there, but right when I muted it, I caught it. Right there. Oh my lord.
Oh, yes, Dawn.
Look at this, Dawn. I have this crappy machine gun, Dawn, and I look like a fool, Dawn, but it's fun, Dawn, because I'm stupid, Dawn. Now the machine gun ammo's falling off of me, Dawn. I have to pretend like it's not, Dawn. Oh, this guy is stupid. Like,
what do you have, an oximeter on his wrist or something? What was that? What was on his finger just right there? Was that a ring or something?
I don't know. Let's go back and look. What the hell is that?
Man, it looks like a pulse oximeter, like a small version or something, unless that's a... I don't know what the hell that is. It's weird.
I have a heart arrhythmia, Dawn.
He's like on dialysis on his last leg out here, trying to pose like he's like a youngster or something.
Dude, he's dressed like the Grim Reaper. Little does this clown know, the Grim Reaper is literally right next door, waiting for him to croak tomorrow. Like it's like what a clown, man. Like, but still, this is a crazy funny video to watch. Also, watch this last picture here. This looks ridiculously stupid, seeing how small he actually looks on the truck. Like, he looks like a little midget up there, you know? He looks like that. He looks like, what the hell's the name of that guy, Matthew? You know the one I'm talking about. It's the actor.
Describe him a bit.
It's the actor who is shorter in size, very, very short. Peter
Cruise?
Dinklage. He looks like Peter Dinklage up there. Like, that's what he looks like. This is not a good look.
This is a bad look.
This is
terrible.
This is a really bad look. But anyways, we're going to be moving on from Grozny and Chechnya, because that's all we can show. That, of course, it's always the stupidest stuff that comes out of Chechnya. But beyond that, we have heard that Katarov's boys, apparently up in Kursk, are getting a little bit of a reputation for themselves, and not for any kind of fighting prowess. It's for their kind of brutality against the Russian soldiers that are falling back from the lines against the Ukrainian onslaught that's continuing to drive deeper into Kursk. Apparently, from what we're hearing, the Russian conscripts are actually starting to surrender to the Ukrainians because they're scared of getting killed by the Chechens if they retreat. And a lot of people are starting to think that Russia's brutality might be backfiring. But Matthew, what have people been thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so it looks like 77% of the audience said yes, the brutality has backfired, while 6% said no, it's simply a small number of troops, and 5% said it seems like a minor issue to me. And I would say this is a very big issue, because not only are the soldiers in Russia very demoralized and unmotivated, but now they have to look forward to, if they run away or something like that happens, now they're going to get clapped by the Akhmat troops, which are cowards themselves. The cowards are holding in the other cowards, and this is not going good. So I think the brutality is going to backfire. As we're seeing right now, the troops are surrendering in mass because they don't want to encounter the brutal Chechens if they decide to run back behind the lines. So it's just it's honestly a shit show all the way around. there's really no other way to put it. It is what it is. But Enforcer, what say you?
I've started to hear, Matthew, that some Russian soldiers that are being moved in right now, some of those brigades that are being brought to reinforce the area and try and stop the Ukrainians, are apparently stealing the goats that are supposed to be given to North Korea, so that way they can bring them onto the front line, so that way if they ever retreat and they come up to the Chechens, and the Chechen soldiers go, well, do we have another retreater? And then they put up the goat, and then they go, we'll let it slide. Go on. That you can retreat. I've heard that that's starting to happen a little bit, at least according to some side reports. But beyond that, in all seriousness, the brutality is backfiring, because if the Russians are more scared of the guys behind them than they are the ones in front of them, they're going to end up surrendering to the guys in front of them, and you're going to end up losing a great deal of combat power just because they're scared of falling back, which actually is a pretty reasonable kind of a measure. Really, to be honest with y'all, the Russians probably should be falling back a little bit more than they are right now, because they haven't even been able to really create any kind of strong defensive positions that will last for a while. And from what we know, beyond the hasty ones that they've constructed in some areas, which are very, very bare bones at that, they haven't really put a lot of effort into creating any major defensive networks a little bit further back that they can fall back to at the moment. So I would have to say, yes, the brutality is certainly backfiring, and this could end up allowing the Ukrainians to have a lot more success on the battlefield than they would have if the Russians actually could end up retreating and maintaining their combat power to fight another day. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least the best I can, from what I would understand of the situation at the moment. And with that, it is now finally time for us to start moving from inside of Russia and into Ukraine. We have a pretty decent amount of news, not a great deal of it like we have from Kursk, but we still have a pretty decent amount of it, and it is pretty interesting stuff. We actually have location unknowns today, which is pretty rare nowadays. But with that, before we move on into that, I want to make sure that we address a couple of questions from the chat. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
Oh, Jack, we got some questions out here. We got a $130 donation.
Damn.
Massive support from a longtime channel legend. It's BC Skyman, and thank you very much, BC, for always supporting the channel every single day. We appreciate that very much. And he did not leave a comment. He left a lot of super stickers, though. Let's see here. He left one of the YouTube creature riding the rocket into oblivion and then exploding. And he also left one of the YouTube creature flipping out of his chair and turning into a transformer, if that's what they're called. A mech. Is that what they're called now? But
I think so.
Anyways, thank you very much, BC, for that support, and we appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you for the unbelievably massive support, BC Skyman. And I gotta thank you for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running. Folks like you help this channel to be possible each and every single day. And I've got to give you a massive shout out and a massive thanks for being here with us again tonight and supporting this channel and making sure that we can keep it going another day. A lot of people watch this channel every single night. Crazily enough, just an hour and 10 minutes into the stream, there are still 12,000 people here, and about 60,000 people have watched this stream since it went live. Throughout all of these tens of thousands of people who are currently here right now and have watched so far, only about, crazily enough, only about 10 or 12 people have actually thrown in a super chat in support of this channel. That's largely the way this is supposed to work, actually. We run an ad-free, sponsor-free stream for everyone who's new and just joining us tonight. We never expect a single dime or a single second of anyone's time watching this channel. It is a completely free to watch show that anyone can get on, and you don't even have to wait for an ad. You can get straight to listening to the news. That's exactly what we've wanted to do since the start, and we've been able to do that for an incredibly long time, thanks to the very small amount of people on this channel who support this channel in the background and help us to be able to make a living doing this, so that way we can do this as a full-time job and make sure to keep the news rolling in for y'all. We are entirely grateful to everyone who's watching, everyone who's hit the like button, 2,700 of y'all so far, everyone who's still watching right now, about 11.8 thousand of y'all, and also the very, very small few who have supported this channel tonight with the super chat, because if it wasn't for each and every one of y'all, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And a huge shout out to you once again, BC Skyman, for supporting this channel massively tonight, because you helped this channel to be financially possible behind the scenes, so that way we can keep doing this as a job and we can keep telling everyone the big news that's coming out pretty much every single day. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
Man, I gotta say, I just looked down and saw the viewership number right now at 11,500. I have no idea how we normalized having that many viewers on the stream at one point. That is crazy, like, to see that many viewers. I remember when, like, I think we'd have like 7 or 8,000 people on at any given point. That was huge. But now to see almost 12,000 on during the middle of the question segment, in the middle of the stream, that's wild. And huge shout out to everybody that's new here on the stream as well. We're very honored by that. But with that, we're jumping into our next super chat, and this one goes to Tom S, who throws in an $85 donation, and thank you very much, Tom, as well, for that support. He said, I've been around since the second week, and y'all continue to do awesome work, and congrats on the viewership, and thank you. He said, keep it up, and long live the LSA, and please take one from the chat.
And that is a perfect segue, Matthew, from your comment and straight into Tom Estes' super chat.
Exactly.
Because the viewership has been insane for weeks now. I don't really know if the stream is ever going to drop back down to the really high viewership we were even getting before this, because for most of y'all to know, we are the only people on YouTube who run pretty much a daily live stream. I think we are actually the only people on YouTube who run a daily live stream on the war in Ukraine. Some other people do it every once in a while, but usually not a lot of people even got close to what we were doing way back before we blew up with these live streams like we have right now. Most people would get up to maybe at the highest 2,000 live viewers. Our streams consistently got up into the 6,000s and 7,000s back in the day, and nowadays, really for the past 3 weeks or so, these streams have now been getting up into the 12,000s to 14,000s with ease pretty much every single day. It's been crazy to watch that. And crazy to see the growth on this channel and the amount of people who come on and watch every night, because I was joking around with a friend of mine that I've known from high school. He's in the Space Force now. I was joking around that isn't it kind of crazy that him and me would get scared, like nervous. Everyone got nervous back in school when you'd have to do those class presentations in front of like 25 people. Even if you didn't have to see them in person, you just had to do them. You get incredibly nervous. And nowadays, I end up talking to 12,000, 13, actually at the peak tonight, 13,000 people, 13.1 thousand people in one single sitting, and we do that pretty much nightly at this point. That is really crazy to mentally think about how many people that is. That's huge. That's a small town right there, and really not a lot of people have crowds like that, to be entirely honest, even in real life.
The biggest crowds, only the largest.
Yeah, I mean, it's only the biggest, only the greatest. You gotta look at this graph, look at this graph. It's huge. But I gotta say, it's absolutely crazy to have this many people here with us. I gotta thank you so much, Tom S., for giving a huge congratulations. Really, I gotta give a huge congratulations to everyone in the live chat right now, because I don't know what you'll find that interesting about this show. I don't know if it's the way we talk, how we kid around, the kind of information or analysis we put out, the rabbit holes. I'm not really sure what the specific thing is that draws a lot of people in. I'm sure many people in the live chat are about to give their answer as to why they're here, but usually it's not the same. Everyone always has a little bit of a different reason as to why they're here, but we're happy to have all of y'all, regardless whether y'all enjoy the rabbit holes, or y'all really like the analysis, or y'all really like the dynamic that Matthew and me have with each other, or the jokes we put out. We are so happy to have all of y'all here. It means a great deal to us. We have worked so hard on this thing for the past 2.5 years. We haven't taken any vacations. We haven't really taken any days off. It's been 7 days a week, every single day, knocking this thing out and trying to make sure the news keeps flowing. And I got to thank everyone so much once again for enjoying that. I got to give you a huge thanks, Tom S., for the congratulations on that, and thank you so much for being here since week 2, a old guard. And thank you so much once again for wanting us to keep up the awesome work. Thanks to your support, we will be able to keep making that possible. And of course, long live the Lee Spring Army. And Matthew, what do we got for a live chat in honor of Tom S.?
All right, so that live chat right here in honor of Tom S. is going to go to, guess who? Duncan VR, who says, what missiles can an F-16 fire at those bridges in mainland Russia?
Very interesting question. There is a decent amount of weapons that the F-16 could carry to destroy that bridge. So let's go through a few of them. And let me just go down to the bottom of the Wikipedia so that way I can make sure I don't miss a single one. Because I'm sure I could list off a few, but my list in my head wouldn't be the exhaustive list. It would be a very limited one. So there is the CVU-87 combined effects munition right here. This seems to be, it's a cluster bomb. That wouldn't be used. The Gator mine, which is a anti-personnel mine system, that would not be used. The sensor-fused weapon is a 1,000-pound cluster bomb. That also would not be used. The Mark 84 general purpose bomb, this actually could be used, but it's a 2,000-pound dumb bomb. It's a 2,000-pound gravity bomb, which is what people want to call it nowadays. That's like the corporate version of a dumb bomb, but beyond that, you could use one of these. They only cost about $16,000, so not that expensive. You could have dropped one of those. You could have also dropped a Mark 83, which is a 1,000-pound bomb, which you can see right here. A pretty hefty bomb right there. But we also have the Mark 82. These are a low drag bomb. Look at that. That thing is low drag, I'll tell you that.
You don't want your bombs dragging on the ground.
Oh man, I'm gonna drag these nuts over your hometown.
Oh.
Low drag. And then you got
I'm not gonna lie. If anyone ever wanted to go drag their nuts over our hometown, they would probably get beaten out of the town because it's a pretty rough town. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think if they really knew where we grew up, like it's not like horrifically bad or anything like that, but it's like, you know, they're not gonna take any shit. Like, I'm gonna put it that way. Anybody dragging nuts, they're gonna be in a pretty bad spot.
Man, he's that fella's gonna go down there and try and drag nuts. And the next day they're gonna be dragging his cash. it's like I wouldn't go down there and drag nuts on that town.
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
wouldn't do that either.
It's a dangerous place. But then there's the GBU-39 small diameter bomb. We talked about that one earlier. There's the GBU Paveway 2. Look at that. Boy, howdy, does that look like a great fun picture. That looks like a fun day at the beach to me. What?
Oh, dang, man. Was that like that was the moment before it hit. It says it's shortly before it impacts a small boat. Oh, it's a training exercise. I was about to say, whoever's on that boat is finished, man. That thing's massive compared to that boat.
Dude, Somalia's strongest pirates versus America's weakest bomb. Like, that's like the meme or something. It's like, that's a pretty whack picture, though. But then there's also the GBU Paveway, GBU 12 Paveway 2. Which is a 500-pound version. I think, to me, in my opinion, this is one of the most aesthetically pleasing paveways, at least in my opinion. You know, take that for what it is. Then you have the GBU 24 Paveway 3, which is a, let me make sure that I get the size on this thing right. It's a 2,000-pound paveway bomb. Pretty damn big, but if you ever needed more firepower or more explosive, you have that one. And then you have the GBU 27, which is also a 2,000-pound bomb. It's just a different kind of a package. So you could have dropped any of this on them. You could have dropped a JDAM as well. JDAM pictured here. That's what a JDAM looks like. Pretty cool. They have it branded and everything. Isn't that neat? Like, we love branding.
The JDAM is such a cool weapon. Like, the way they put that kit on a dumb bomb like that. Like, whoever came up with the JDAM kit, they were geniuses. That was like the most like straightforward solution to, like, you know, put a massive bomb with some guidance. It's like, how come somebody didn't think of that sooner? Like, that was so simple, but it's so effective.
Yeah, like, why in the world did they not think of that? And then also the B-61 nuclear bomb, and then there's also the B-83 right here.
That looks interesting.
Yeah, so, you know, kind of cool. And then also there's a couple of air-to-surface missiles as well. The Maverick, which is really the only one here that would be used a good bit. There's the JASSM, but that's not allowed to be used inside of Russia. And then there's the AGM-154, which is also not allowed to be used in Russia, even if Ukraine has them. So with that, I hope that does address that live chat the best I can. It literally just went straight down the Wikipedia list and explained all of the weapons that showed up on the spreadsheet, but that's generally all the weapons that an F-16 could use. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. Huge shout out once again to Tom S for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And by the way, folks, I just want to throw this out there really quickly. So the 11,000 of y'all who are still here right now, we are at 265,980 subscribers. We are only 20 subscribers away from reaching 266,000. If you hit the subscribe button right now, you might end up being the 266,000th subscriber of this channel. Crazily enough, it was literally like just 7 days ago that we celebrated 250,000, and we're now about 16,000 subscribers above that. So the channel's been growing at leaps and bounds, and if y'all want to subscribe, y'all can, and it would bump the number up a little bit more, and we go, ah! And then we'd be really happy. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the final question of the segment, and then we're going to be getting back into the news.
All right, so the final super chat of this segment here goes to K-Dub Janky, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, K-Dub, for that support as always. Another longtime channel legend. And they said, can geography influence government type? For example, England surrounded by water and ancient Rome and Greece surrounded by water and mountains developed a representative government. And also, Asian states on open ground never did.
And I thank you for the support, K-Dub Janky. And this is an interesting talk. It's trying to show the dichotomy in between governments that were mostly based around seafaring societies versus governments that evolved around more so agrarian or land-based kinds of societies. A very interesting question. And I would have to say that as far as I would understand, the difference in between a seafaring society and a non-seafaring society doesn't have that much of an impact on government development. It actually more so has to do with the cultural background that's created within a region, because Japan was a very a very much more so seagoing kind of a country than really any other. It is an island surrounded by water, and nevertheless, a democratic form of government was not seen in Japan until the Meiji Restoration, if we want to say that that was the determinant of a kind of a representative or at least a parliamentary government at that point, which existed around 1870. And nevertheless, throughout the entire history of Japan, no form of representative government existed, although this was a fairly seafaring nation, if you wanted to call it. When I say seafaring, not really. It was more so isolationist, but still, it was surrounded by water, and most of Japan's food source was from the sea, from fish and such things, because there's not a large amount of arable land on the island, on the islands of Japan, and so they were a fairly seafaring nation, if you wanted to say, just for food sources alone, but they still did not develop any kind of a representative system. There are a lot of countries in Europe that also never developed a representative form of government, and they really didn't have one until the modern day, until modern influences. Like, for example, the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, crazily enough, actually was a seafaring country, at least during its golden age. Now, during the time later on in history, when it began to be known as the sick man of Europe through the 19th and early 20th century, up until its collapse in 1918 and 1919, Turkey was actually, well, the Ottoman Empire was a fairly big seafaring nation and had a lot of influence on the world, but nevertheless, it was not a representative form of government. It was run by the Sultan and was more so of a centralized, well, not really a centralized dictatorship. I want to say more so an absolutist monarchist government instead of anything else. So I would say that it didn't really have that much of an impact there. Now, Venice, the city-state of Venice, was a seafaring country, and probably if we wanted to say that there was a proto-democratic government in the modern day before England, I would say that Venice probably was the closest one, because they had the merchants, and if you were a merchant inside the Venetian city-state, you actually got to vote in elections about certain things, but there was a lot of criteria to that. It wasn't at all what a lot of people would think of as a modern democracy, and really, to be entirely honest, the democracy that we saw that arose inside of England because of the creation of the English Constitution loosely, that wasn't even really a democracy either in the modern sense, where the people actually got a say. There was a lot of criteria that limited the kind of people who could have a say, but then again, a lot of people would say, wow, that seems kind of wrong. Really, to be honest, there was a lot of technological limitations at the time that would ensure that there was never such a thing as an actual representative kind of a government getting votes from the entire body of the people, because of the geographical area that the Kingdom of England and later on the United Kingdom possessed, and the amount of people living there, and also the fact that there was really no immigration control or any kind of accurate census to be made, or anything for that matter, for real elections to be held, even on the most basic level of the populace. It would have been completely impossible to actually run a viable election at that time, and also to avoid fraud, because there was not enough accountability, at least at that moment, to stop some people, like, say, lords of certain areas inside the United Kingdom, from possibly trying to sway election results or count out a certain number of votes. So those kinds of elections weren't possible until the technology was able to catch up to make that kind of election possible on that kind of a level. But still, I would also say Greece, like, for example, the democratic states in Greece, they weren't really necessarily formed into democratic societies, at least in my opinion, just because they were seafaring, because there were the Spartans, and they were kind of seafaring-ish, but they never ended up being democratic, really. They were more so of a dictatorship of a sort than anything. And Rome, of course, ended up turning from a republic into an empire, and largely a authoritarian dictatorship as well throughout the rest of history, or really more so of an oligarchy, because later on in the history of the empire, it was generally the Praetorian Guard that was able to pick and remove emperors at will, and so the Praetorians largely started to run Rome towards the later end of the empire, which is what kind of makes me say that it's more so of an oligarchy than anything. But still, I would say that whether a nation is seafaring or more so land-based doesn't really change a lot of how they evolved governmentally. I think it's like I would have to say, as far as representative governments go, the West holds a specific monopoly on that because it's a very kind of a proprietary idea that was put forward within the Greek city-state, the Greek city-states, and then also later on in the early Roman Republic. And that's really the only kind of semblance throughout most of history that gave anyone an idea later on to come up with any kind of a representative government. Because the only reason that America has a representative federal republic or a representative democracy is because of Enlightenment thinkers looking back to the examples of the ancient Greek city-states and the Roman Republic and wanting to try and reiterate that idea, but in a modern framework. And so I would have to say, I don't really think it has that much of an impact, but I hope that my input on that was interesting at least, because while I disagree a little bit on that idea that there is a dichotomy in between the two, I think that that there is a little bit of a semblance of some sort of a difference, but I don't think the difference is seafaring versus land-based. I think it's a different kind of a cultural difference, and I'm trying to think of something to come up with, but I think that'll have to be for the question segment later, because I'll probably have to think about that a lot in the background inside my head. But I'm seeing a lot of people talk here, geography influence policy, government policy more than government type. That's true. I would agree with that, John Van. So I think that's a more interesting, well, not more interesting, but a more apt way to put it, because governments don't really form, say, around like the base form of travel or really like the base form of lifestyle. It's more so about cultural ebbs and flows. Like, for example, a lot of the Western countries that really put out this example were really strong into kind of having decentralized governments from the start. Like these larger kingdoms like England, and really, honestly, the entire feudal system is a good way to explain why there is such a lean towards representative governments in the West while there isn't elsewhere. The feudal system didn't exist in Asia or really in even Eastern Europe, at least for a long time. It generally just existed in Western Europe. And Western Europe had a pretty good lean forward because the feudal system, while of course existing around a monarchy, it was a decentralized enough monarchy that a king didn't have absolute power in say, even at the height of feudalism before it went into more so the age of the Enlightenment, and we started to move into things like absolutism by the 17th century. It was decentralized enough that everything largely had to have a say. While it wasn't exactly people having votes, it was merchant guilds, knights, lords. A whole bunch of people would have a whole lot of a say in how things would go. That's why Britain had a parliament that was created by the Magna Carta, made up of the lords of the kingdom. And they would all come together in the House of Lords, and they would end up coming up with ideas or solutions. The king couldn't do anything without their approval. Kind of like how in France they had the National Assembly as well. Once again, while it's a monarchy, it's decentralized enough that the king still has to largely have support or approval of a general part of the population to be able to do anything. And kind of like how the Holy Roman Empire had a diet, which those three, the Parliament, the National Assembly, and the Diet, are probably the best examples of the time, showing that while it wasn't necessarily a representative government, it was a monarchy, they still had some form of representation of different elements of society within the government, and different interests competing against each other, and the majority would end up ruling, even if there was just a central king at the top. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. I hope that conversation was interesting because it kind of got fairly in depth there. It was like a really deep rabbit hole, but still, huge thanks to you once again for support, K-Dub Janky. A very, very interesting question right there. Huge thanks to you once again. And with that, we are going to be moving on into the rest of the news that we have from inside of Ukraine. And I had to take a minute there because I saw something was green in the spreadsheet. I was like, what's that green for? Like, I was like, what is that green?
Man, that's how I can remember it. I had to put it in a different color. I was like, what color's going to get my attention? Let me put green there so it'll work.
All right, now I know. But anyways, moving on from that and down into our location unknowns, we got to see an AS 967. You got to be an AS to drive this thing. This thing is terrible looking.
Man, it looks like one of those, you know, those Cushman carts. You know which ones I'm talking about? Like they have at airports and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It looks like that, but they added like the side of like one of those amphibious duck boats, and I don't know what the hell is up with the front of it. Like, man, this is rough. And what did they put logs on the side of it in that other picture?
Yeah.
Oh dear, what? And is that a luck log or something?
I have no idea, but that back suspension, man, is way down. It's like
it's crying.
Dude, this thing is going, I'm tired, boss. It's like, I would be tired too, man. I'd be like, hell. But also, what this thing kind of reminds me of a little bit, if there's an American, like, comparison to this thing, is the M274 Mule. But I honestly think this thing looks better. Example picture here, because this looks like a little go-kart or something. This thing looks like a hybrid in between like what they attempted to make a car, but it isn't anything.
It's just terrible. It's just terrible. Pull up a Cushman cart and just show a picture of that, because it looks almost identical to this thing right here with a little bit of a different body style to it, but it looks like the same chassis, like they stole it off of it or something.
So hang on.
It looks very government.
So, oh, here we go. Here, I found one in yellow. This thing.
Yep, something like that. It's like the same chassis or like the same like frame and stuff, but they added a different body to it to make it look really bad. I think this one right here is ugly, but the other one's worse, the Russian one.
Dude, this thing looks like if it talked, dude, it'd go you know, sound like that. It'd be like, put it out of its misery. Like, this thing is terrible.
It sounds like we going, I'm tired, boss. I'm tired.
No, better yet. Aw, man. Aw, man. Help me. Put me out of my suffering.
It's just full of water, too. Like, it's carrying nothing but water, and it's got a big Z on the front of it. Man. I wouldn't even put the Z on this thing. I'd be ashamed.
Man, call this thing the Water Boy. That's call this thing the Water Boy, because that's all it's good for. But anyways, that's the end of that little thing right there. But moving on from that, Matthew, war is important, but before you have fun in war, you must ask for permission. Russian commanders are beginning to lock up guns with padlocks to stop people from using them whenever they want. You can see all of them padlocked right here.
Oh, wow. That looks like it's going to hold them in very well.
It looks like it will. Also, I don't know about you, Matthew, but I feel like that's a really stupid idea. If a firefight begins or an ambush happens, the commander has to run in here and unlock all the guns for everyone to grab to use. This is some granny state stuff right here, Matthew. You can't even fight war without having to ask the commander for permission. Jeez.
Man, it's a shoplifting state. They got to get control of this stuff right here. It's like Walmart. They got those signs up in the bathroom and stuff like that talking about no shoplifting and stuff. Like the Russians and everybody else is getting crazy with it too. They're putting up these wires and stuff. This is really a bad idea though. Like this is terrible because like you said, if a firefight breaks out, they're screwed. And also like who do they have to call in to like unlock this? Like the top commander? Like let's bring in the top commander while a battle's happening. And hey, can you come unlock this shelf? Can we get the guns out? Like, can we actually defend ourselves? He's like, oh, yeah, sure. Let me just step away from this battle real quick and come unlock the guns.
Dude, some Russian vlogger is going to come in here. He's going to be like, dude, it's terrible. People are stealing everything. And then you're going to see the commander over there. He's going to be like, yeah, after Putin passed a new shoplifting law, no prosecutions if you steal small arms. Everyone keeps coming in and nabbing them off the shelf. We had to lock them up to save them so people don't just keep stealing them or something like that. It's like, what the hell is going on? Like, I don't even get this at all. I don't know what draw them to do this. And not only that, there's 2 SVDs on this rack, meaning that there are some snipers out there that just don't even have snipers. Like, they got to go ask the commander to unlock their sniper to use it. So they don't even get to take moments of opportunity because by the time they finally get the rifle from the commander, that person that they were trying to shoot has walked off and is probably gone by that point.
Seriously speaking, though, if I had to take a stab at it, I would assume it's probably because of people getting in fights, drunken fights, and probably wanting to shoot at each other. That's probably why they're locking them up, because other than that, you know, they're not really going to steal them because they have nowhere to go with them. So it's like, I guess maybe they're like getting in shootouts with each other and they're like, let's just lock them up so they can't wipe each other out.
The honest truth is that they're probably scared of getting themselves killed. The commanders are from getting fragged or something like that, and so they're just locking up all the guns. They're like, we might get overrun by the Ukrainians and give up, but damn it, I'm not getting shot by my own men. Like it's like I'm not kidding that. But speaking of getting shot by your own men, we did get to see that apparently the Russians are having a crackdown again on Russians getting drunk, and they're starting to tie them back up to the trees again. And so here's the clip. We got the devil back. He's back.
Ебать, уёбок. На нахуй. А ты у меня чё, сука, а? Уёбок, блядь. Алкаши нахуй, ебаные, блядь.
Dang, they got this man like straddling the tree. Like, geez, like give him a little bit of room. Like, let's get this.
Man, they got Mr. Lunchtime literally like formed around the tree. Like he is one with the tree now. This is crazy, man. He probably can't breathe. They got him so tight around that tree.
Dude, they said you're going on a weight loss program and wrapped his ass around the tree. Like it's like, dang.
Вы, по-моему, заблудились у меня, душа.
Dude, look at that widow's peak. We found Count Dracula out here. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to get drunk. I'm going to suck all the vodka out of your petals. Blah, blah. It's like, damn, dude.
Да? Ты тоже алкаш у меня, да? Нет.
What the noise? Dude, this guy made one noise. He went, and then this guy behind the microphone, he went, It's like...
Нет, блядь. Сука, блядь. Заебись.
Oh, they got more of them over there. This guy, dude, he's going to be tried for some kind of an assault after this one here, because that's not straddling the tree. That's doing something else. That's not good, man. That's not good.
You know, Russian logic is this. Let's tie our men to the trees, make them humiliated, and absolutely tear down their self-esteem. And then when we untape them from the tree, they'll be so ready to fight for us. They'll be so motivated. They'll love us after this. Like, they'll just love us. That's why they're locking the guns up, by the way, because when you, like, tie people to trees like this, they usually get very angry, and they want to come back and take some revenge.
Yeah, apparently.
Кашира, давай 2 удара этому поебалу, этому. Понял, Кашира, давай нахуй, за алкашей нахуй.
Oh, what? Oh.
Следующему. Кашира, блядь.
What happened?
They started throwing hands at Mr. Lunchtime. Like, while he was on the tree. I was like, what the hell are they doing? But anyways, moving on from that, we then got to see Russian stupidity at its finest. This is a Russian sapper who got tired of doing his job quickly, well, actually slowly, and so he decided to do it quickly. Here's the clip. He takes the anti-tank mine. He grasps the anti-tank mine. He then throws the anti-tank mine.
Oh my god, man. That was a jump scare right there. I knew it was coming, but it was a jump scare. That was so stupid. Oh, he lived?
He lived.
Whoa.
But
I bet his insides are rattled.
But I think the dude literally walked away from that explosion like solid black, like a Looney Tunes cartoon, because if you notice, before he threw it, you could actually see like hints of green. When he's walking away, he's solid black. So I don't think he's okay. I think he's probably injured. He's just surviving off of the shock. Because watch this. He throws it, and then he walks towards it right after throwing it, and then it blows up. Like, it didn't go well for this guy. He may be walking right now, but I have a feeling that may be a Darwin Award winner right here.
He's got to be one of the first people ever to get covered in soot after being standing near a tank mine. That's the first time I've ever seen that.
Dude, this is literally some Looney Tunes stuff right here. Let me go get the... Hang on. 1 second. I gotta go find this thing. Hang on. Yeah, this is it. Hang on, let me go get a big... This is him.
No, man, it really is. Man, I thought this was just in cartoons, but the Russians are showing us it can be done in real life too with enough stupidity behind it.
Yeah, dude, this guy, like, look. At the beginning of the video, he's clearly green, all right? The uniform he's wearing is green. When he's walking back, solid black. Like, that's not like lighting or anything. You would see the green if it's there. He is literally coated in powder or dirt or something, but he's certainly deaf.
Someone asked him, they said, well, what's wrong with you, Comrade Bliat? What's wrong with you? And all he said in return was, barely.
No, man, he sat there. He walked off. They said, Vadim, are you okay? You but and then he went, spinal. It's bad. Like,
Spinal.
let's watch this one more time. This is golden. No!
Oh.
I like how this whole entire squad of guys back here, like a choir, they all went, yeah, bud. You can hear like 5 people say it simultaneously. Listen. Yeah, bud. This whole thing was a comedy skit.
They were shocked too. They're like, no way Vadim just walked out there and did the most stupid stuff we've ever seen. Like worse than the usual stupid stuff Russians do and just lived. Like, I think that's what's shocking about it. This was so stupid, the guy got to walk away from it.
I don't know if he's walking far though, Matthew. Like really, like think about it. He was pretty much like, look at this. He was pretty much on the edge of the blast wave. I don't think he's okay. I really don't.
Probably not. He probably, yeah, probably not.
Maybe not. But moving on from that and into the casualty report, the casualty report was pretty interesting today as well. And check this out. Damn!
Oh, they got 15 Bobcats today. I'm telling you what, yesterday they got 16, I think. So they're holding it up high. I love to see that. They're trying to get over that 2,900 mark, and I'm here for it. But Enforcer, tell us more.
And they are really here for it, and I say they're going for it too, Matthew. 1,230 Russian soldiers have been wounded and killed over the past 24 hours. Not only that, 12 APCs, 65 supply trucks, 5 main battle tanks, 58 artillery pieces, 55 drones, 1 MLRS, 3 cruise missiles, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, and the 15 Bobcat skid steers. All in all, today was a pretty freaking good day, and I gotta say that we were happy to see these kinds of losses being inflicted onto the Russian army. And we got to see one of the artillery pieces doing it. A 100mm field gun of the M1944 model was being used in the Kharkiv direction today, near Vovchansk, to lay down some heat. And boy, were they laying it down. Send it, poof, and there goes the round. Here comes the impact right there, dead on the nail. And here comes some more, just hitting them, slamming them. And that's the end of that clip. But gee, boy, howdy, do we love to see it. And is it wonderful to know that the Ukrainians are just out there slamming the Russians, even with somewhat older artillery pieces. They're still able to get a little bit of a kick in there. And so with that, moving on from that and past the Kremenna Forest, past Bakhmut, we're now moving on down near Pokrovsk. It's moved on from Avdiivka to Pokrovsk. We've got an upgrade. And we did get to see a Russian BMP exploding in this area. There it goes on its little adventure, and poof! And there it goes. Everyone takes flight. Goodbye, everybody. I get Lufthansa flight miles. But with that, that's the end of the clip. Wonderful to see. The Russians were having a lot of fun this day, getting some airtime. Moving on from that, we also got to see more Russians getting hit with some artillery in the area of Grodivka. Whoa. That music is pretty rough. But you know what's even rougher? The treatment the Russians are about to get by that Ukrainian artillery. Can we get some Dobry din? And we did. The Ukrainian tank slammed him dead in the nail. And we see him doing it again at point-blank range. Holy moly.
Also, LSA Rock said, how much do you think in money-wise have they lost in special equipment? I honestly don't know, but I just did like a quick math real quick, which quick math can be dangerous here on the channel. But guessing about $100,000 average per equipment, which that's, you know, wildly, it varies depending on what the equipment is. Probably at least like something like 300 million or something like that at least, based on just the special equipment losses alone.
And that's quite an expensive number of special equipment vehicles. And we also got to see Bradley evacuating some infantry today from the area as well. Check this out. We can see a little firefight going on here. The Russians in the trees, the Ukrainians in this dugout. And they're trying to pop those Russians. Look at this Russian guy. He's just kind of walking around. Uh-oh! That Bushmaster came in! What's that? Is that American firepower? Oh my goodness, it's American firepower. What do you know? It's arrived to save the day. Have no fear, the Bradley's here, and it's here to save the day. And we now see the Bradley back there laying down that smoke. We see him whipping up. We see the Ukrainian infantry now clearing out of the outpost. We see them getting into the Bradley as they lay down
they're on a drone.
Oh yeah, right down there. I think that's a Ukrainian drone, I believe. This is not going in for the Bradley. It's pretty close. We can see them continuing to lay down that heat. We now see them making that 180 turn right here in a second. They're about to do it again, and we can now see them driving away after evacuating that Ukrainian fire team. Pretty cool to see. That Bradley came in clutch, no joke. It actually saved those guys from a pretty tough fate of surrendering or getting wiped out, so pretty impressive stuff once again by the 47th Brigade. The Russians have made slow advances in this area once again today. They're very small. They've taken high casualties, but once again, they're slowly working their way towards Pokrovsk at the moment. Moving on from that and down towards Enerhodar, we did get to hear that according to a statement that was put out today, the situation, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is deteriorating once again. And it seems as though that is a reoccurring statement that they make, and then we never hear about anything else beyond that. Got to give it a huge shout out to the IAEA, probably one of the most discerning organizations out there in the war so far. Moving on from that, we also got to hear that there is a bull, and there is one, and you know what? It's exactly on what I was talking about right there. Whack! But beyond that, speaking a little bit more about what's happening at the Enerhodar nuclear power plant, the IAEA does say that at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the situation is deteriorating, and some people are saying we might see a little bit of a provocation, and some are saying that they are hinting at Russian sabotage. Some others are saying that they need some more intel, and some others are saying it's just fear-mongering and stuff like that. But still, Matthew, what are people saying, and what are you thinking as well about this?
So on this poll, a whopping 62% of the audience said yes, they are hinting at Russian sabotage, while 18% said maybe, but I need more intel, and 10% said no, it's just fear-mongering talk. And on this one, considering we just saw a fire at the cooling tower at the Zaporizhzhia NPP, I would say that safety has definitely deteriorated there, but I wish the IAEA would give more details on this, because they really just made sort of like a fear-mongering statement, and then they went away. It's like, you know, can we get a little bit more details to what y'all find so unsafe? Because right now we're kind of in the dark. So to me, it sounds like the IAEA is trying to give hints that something bad's happening, but they're scared of Russian backlash if they're to go out there and say exactly what's happening, because it seems like they're a little bit scared to go against the Russians for obvious reasons. They're a little bit scared, and they don't want to tell the truth outright. So that's just my opinion, but I'm with the 62%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that, in my opinion, I would have to be with the 62% as well. They're probably hinting at some form of sabotage coming up in the future. They're probably talking about that cooling tower fire, which a lot of people tried to downplay for some reason. I don't know what it is. Like I'll tell you all this. It's always interesting to me to see this. People in the pro-Ukraine community will constantly complain about how dangerous it is for the Russians to run this nuclear power plant. I mean, like, all day, every day. If they run out of content, the two things that they go to is either a crazy Wild West train robbery is happening in Russia, and the Ukrainians just stole an operational nuclear bomb off of that train, or it's that the nuclear power plant's going to melt down and explode and kill everyone. Those are like the two things that most pro-Ukrainian YouTubers go to on slow days. But then when an actual cooling tower pretty much ends up burning to the ground nearly in a fire, then everyone wants to go, oh, well, you know, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, he caught on fire. It's like, okay, so it's like, if we were at any other place, like, you know, like, I don't know, inside of Ukraine, and they ended up hitting, like for example, let me take y'all to this. This is a great example right here. Let's go to the area around Cherkasy, because if I'm correct, a little bit further up the river here, there is a power plant, and I'm trying to think of where this is specifically. Is it up here? Yeah, here it is. It's up here at Ukrainka, and I believe this is the power plant. It's some kind of a thermal power plant or something along that line that's right here. It was hit by a Russian missile, and some people out there said, oh my goodness, this is such a big deal. The damage is unbelievable. Like, just to let y'all know, this thermal power plant is like moderately operational at this moment. Like, the damage was pretty decent, but it wasn't enough to completely destroy the power plant, and people made it a big deal. They were like, oh my goodness, Ukraine is going to be without power, people are going to freeze to death, and then a whole cooling tower can catch on fire at a nuclear power plant that the Russians are in control of, and then people want to go, I mean, that's not really that big of a deal. It's like, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, a part of an operational nuclear power plant is burning to the ground. A fire at a nuclear facility of any sort, whether it's a big fire or a little fire, or a fire on a non-critical system or on a critical system, a fire at a nuclear installation is a very severe incident, no matter what. Like, that's huge. Here in the United States, that would be considered one of the most grave incidents that can happen at a nuclear power plant is a fire breaking out on any kind of a part of the system, whether it be the cooling towers, the reactors, or anything else. And so I would have to say it does seem as though the Russians are probably going to start trying to conduct some sort of sabotage beyond the cooling tower fire, and the IAEA is apparently starting to get a little bit of a wind that this might be happening soon. But still, I want to put this out there. This is a fairly concerning situation. The Russians are not maintaining this power plant properly. It looks like a very bad situation, and something needs to be done about this on an international level. Try a diplomatic approach, and then if a diplomatic approach doesn't work, go for more urgent measures, but still appropriate ones given the situation. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, we're moving on out of Enerhodar and down into the area around Kherson, where we got to see that an S-300 of the Ukrainian air defense in the area fired on a Russian drone. And look at that, missile go, bled. And there it goes towards the Russian drone, which will be right in the view of horizon. Actually, smoke covered the bullet, but still pretty cool. And
look at those bunkers, bliat. It reminds me of the old days, you know what I mean? With the holes in the bunker like these.
Well, look at that bunker, bliat. And I wonder where they get their heating from in winter. Oh, look at that boiler.
You know what I'm talking about, though? Like, those are like German bunkers almost, like the way that looks. I don't know if it's like unique to them or something, but it looks like German bunkers.
No, that doesn't look German. That looks like dirt. Really, honestly, this thing looks like it's made of dirt. But anyways,
man, it looks German to me, and it's gonna be German. I'm telling you what, it's German to me.
All right. You don't have to get angry. Don't be angry. Why is Matthew getting angry?
German.
I mean, man, if I say, why are you getting angry at me? We're probably going to see like 50 people in the live that go, whoa, calm down. It's gonna be, I was just kidding
It
with
is
that.
a German, yeah.
Oh, by the way, speaking of German, we also got to see some Russians being treated like germs near the Aleski Bridge today. They were getting schlammed, man. Like schlammed. Like schmacked. Like hit. Like obliterated even.
It's a bad place to be around bridges right now if you're a Russian. Like, you want to stay away from those.
Man, in diplomacy, they always like to build bridges. Now in this war, it seems like the only thing that's done is that bridges are burned. But that's the end of that little clip. Pretty interesting to see. And without further ado, 2 hours into the news segment, it's now time for us to make it up to Kyiv and cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky. And so, without further ado, here is the speech. Speech!
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. Сьогодні було вже кілька доповідей головкома Сирського. Завжди першочергова увага фронтовим напрямкам, передусім Донеччині. Найбільше російських штурмів саме там. Я дякую всім нашим підрозділам, кожному солдату і командиру, які тримають фронт, які захищають наші позиції, які знищують окупанта. Ми робимо все, щоб дати нашим воїнам необхідну зброю, необхідне посилення. І саме в цьому контексті нам безперечно важливо, щоб партнери прибрали бар'єри, які заважають нам послаблювати російські позиції. Саме так, як цього потребує хід війни. Далекобійність для наших сил – це відповідь на всі найбільш важливі, на всі найбільш стратегічні питання цієї війни. Сміливість наших воїнів, стійкість наших бойових бригад – зараз компенсує дефіцит необхідних рішень від партнерів. Ми змогли би надійно позбавити окупанта будь-якої можливості просуватись, сіяти руїни, якби наша далекобійність була достатньою. Будемо посилювати нашу дипломатичну роботу. Будемо наполягати на тому, що потрібні сміливі кроки, сміливі рішення. Потрібно те, що дійсно змінює курс війни, веде її до справедливого миру, до реального завершення. І саме такого, якого ми потребуємо. І ми потребуємо того, щоб всі партнери, які дійсно можуть допомогти, щоб вони допомогли. Це і Сполучені Штати, і Британія, і Франція, і інші партнери. Зокрема, протягом всього часу цієї війни ми бачили, що Британія демонструє справжнє лідерство і у зброї, і в політиці, і в підтримці життя українського суспільства. Це те, що врятувало тисячі наших людей. Те, що дійсно відповідає силі Британії. Але зараз, на жаль, ситуація уповільнилась. Ми будемо говорити, як це виправити. Бо далекобійність для нас дійсно принципова річ. І весь світ бачить, якими ефективними є українці, увесь наш народ, коли захищають свою незалежність. Сьогодні ж генерал Сирський доповідав щодо продовження нашого руху в Курській області. Операція триває саме так, як ми і розраховували. Хоробрість українців робить великі речі. Зараз зміцнюємо наші позиції, плацдарм нашої присутності стає сильнішим. Я хочу подякувати кожному воїну, який це забезпечує, всім солдатам, сержантам і командирам. І також дякую кожному підрозділу, який поповнює наш обмінний фонд за рахунок нових російських військових полонених. Це важливо. Це наближає звільнення наших військових, наших цивільних з російського полону. Пам'ятаємо про всіх, кого маємо повернути додому. І дуже важливо, що цього тижня відбулося перезавантаження нашої переговорної групи та всієї інфраструктури обмінів. Долучилися на рівних із ГУР СБУ, МВС, Збройні сили, Служба зовнішньої розвідки. Буде посилена також присутність інфраструктури омбудсмена в областях України, щоб всюди відбувалась прозора та якісна робота з рідними полонених, з громадськими активістами, які готові допомагати. І це наш безперечний пріоритет. Один із 10 пунктів формули миру. Ми обов'язково зробимо все, щоб Україна отримала справедливий мир. Всі наші люди, всі наші громади. Я дякую кожному і кожній, хто допомагає. Слава Україні!
And Slava. And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky. And that wraps up our day 906 War News. And that moves us on into the second segment of this stream, where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. But before we all go anywhere, make sure to stick around, because the next segment is incredibly fun. Y'all might be missing out on a lot. I got to give a huge shout out to the 13.1 thousand people who are here at the peak tonight, and also the 82,000 people who have watched this stream so far. We are entirely honored and extremely humbled to know that so many people find this channel to be their primary source of news. If you do enjoy, and you have enjoyed, please make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe, and make sure to do anything and everything you want to tell your friends and family about this channel. Tell it to them the next time you get into a major argument. I mean, you know, when you're in the middle of a shouting match with your family, just sit there and go, God, if y'all watch The Enforcer, you'd get it. And let them know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe that'll work. Maybe they'll stop the argument dead in its tracks and they'll go, who is this Enforcer person? And then you can tell them about all the great things that the Enforcer channel does and that the Lee Spring Army has done as well. Maybe it will fix everything. Who knows? But beyond that, I also got to give a massive shout out to everyone as well for subscribing tonight, because we have now surpassed 266,000 subscribers.
Whoa.
Wow, that is incredible. That's
amazing.
Absolutely amazing. And a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed so far today, who has helped to make this milestone possible. 266,000 subscribers. Once again, absolutely incredible. But with that, Matthew, I understand that we have an incredibly interesting and an incredibly fun question segment in front of us with loads of live chats, loads of super chats, and we've got to knock them all out. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so with that, we're now entering our final question segment of the night, and we have no more polls to address, so we are jumping right into our Super Chat segment, and the first one here is going to go to Hokey Redneck, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Hokey. had very generous support. He said, I found some change. And hey, thank you very much, Hokey, for finding that change. We appreciate it. And he said, also, North Carolina Truck Squad. Oh, no, no, no. I thought that was made illegal, Hokey. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think that is actually illegal now because it hindered the view of the front of the truck so bad that these young teenagers who were like squatting their trucks like this, which is really stupid, were actually getting in wrecks. So they had to ban it, to my understanding. But Enforcer, tell us more.
Well, this is more. Oh!
Oh, man, the brain rot. Goodness gracious, man, the brain rot. This is like something that a Russian would do.
Man, unequivocally, bussin' for real, no cap, on God. Do something like that, but I don't know, man, but this is rough. Like, I don't know who in the world thinks this is a good idea. I mean, you got an angle of attack on that road like a Concorde coming in on final approach on runway 36 right at London Heathrow. I mean, this is one hell of an angle right here. Like, you can't even see over the hood. You're looking into the sky. Like, no joke, you have to drive this thing like you'd fly a Cessna. Like, this is absolutely insane. I don't know why.
So to give y'all an idea real quick, everybody's like, oh, well, you know, you say the place where you grew up and stuff like that. Like, oh, how is it really? We actually knew, and I actually knew some people that actually had their truck done like this. They actually went to our high school way back in the day. So we had some of these Carolina squatters, as they call them, at the school. And they were very proud of this. It was like the best achievement of their life, squatting their truck to where they'd get in a wreck basically every other day because they can't see over the hood. So, and also the exhaust would be god-awfully loud as well. They would like straight pipe the exhaust, and it would be horrific. And they would have LEDs in a wheel well, like you see right there, just like that. So I don't know what possessed people to do this, but I'm glad it's banned, at least in North Carolina, to my understanding. Hopefully they ban it everywhere else because it's terrible. It's cringy and it's bad.
I mean, it's rough, man. But didn't one of the people that had their truck squatted like this, didn't they end up shooting someone and then running them over at some kind of like a party that happened after we all graduated and then they went to prison or something?
No, see, that was Andrew. That was Andrew. Funnily enough, someone I did go to school with ended up getting, I don't know if they got sentenced yet or not, but they ended up shooting some dude that I knew as well over an argument over some female. So, and then he ran him over with a car. So, yeah, that's where we went to school.
Man, typical Alabama. Like, I'm telling you, man, it's typical Alabama. Oh, man. If only some other people could be as real as we are. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, goodness. But I'm telling you something else. One thing I really don't like either is when the trucks, the pickup trucks like this, roll coal, or as I view it, Steamboat Willie it, because it's like, why? Like, what does that do for anyone? It just gunks up other people's cars, their stuff. It's really just an asshole move to do something like that. You know, I like to call it for what it is, but still, this is a pretty rough truck modification. Is that Whistling Diesel?
Yes, it is. I think he got one to make fun of it or tear it up or something.
I think so, because I can only see people making fun of this. People who like this unironically, I don't know why. Like, really, I would really have a big question as to why. But let's see. For the haters. All right.
Well, you're definitely creating haters with a truck like that. Like, you don't have to worry about them, like, finding you. They're going to see you.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Dude. Oh my lord, dude! You got that high angle up here on the front, so that way you can digest the pedestrians quicker under the hood. Like, you can just send them straight into the hood and shoot them out the back, flattened like a pancake. Like, this is a very dumb truck mod. You know, I feel like if you're going to do that, why not just get those little hydraulic arm things, Mandy, that fling the car up into the air? You know, like, why not just do that instead? Because at least technically, as long as you're not like driving down the road while you do it, that's safer a little bit.
You can actually put airbags on a truck. I've seen that done before. But no, I don't know about hydraulic like rods. Like, you know, you're talking about the low riders that like jump up and down with the hydraulics. I think the truck might be too heavy for that. I think the cars are a little bit lighter, so it can. But I'm not an expert in that. I'm sure somebody in the chat's gonna be like, no, you don't know nothing about hydraulics. I'm not an expert, but I think the truck might be too heavy.
Your disclaimer means nothing to that person, Matthew. They are going to go off on you anyways. But beyond that, I would have to say, those truck squats, those things are rough. But still, thank you so much once again for the support, Hokie Redneck, and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope we addressed that incredibly well. And also, Matthew, is that green thing relevant at this point?
So yes, real quick, I actually highlighted this one here from Hokie Redneck. Because he said something we needed to check out. He said right before the stream end, and actually we're not there yet, but we're going to go ahead and address it now. Hokie said, "Can Andrew show the channel growth again?"
Well, yes, yes, we can show the channel growth. Of course, here it is. We got 266,082 subscribers. I was waiting for that number to jump up right there because usually it does while I'm saying it, and then I have to like revise what I'm saying. But we have been growing at a very fast pace. We were growing thousands a day up till the 11th of August, and now we're growing about 1,000 a day, I believe. It has been rather quick, though, rather swift, because this is the entire year in reflection, if you want to call it that. But this is actually where this year, 2024, began. It was right here at 156,836 subscribers. One of the lowest points in the channel, I believe. Actually, no, it got a little bit lower. Right here, January 10th was the lowest point the channel got to from its peak of 160,166 subs. But since the beginning of the year, if we're counting this correctly, we have gained about 111,000 subscribers or so. It's been a really, really big year. Actually, funnily enough, y'all, this will be, no matter how it goes at this point, this will be the biggest year of channel growth that we've had so far, will be 2024. Not 2022, not 2023, but 2024. That's actually pretty wild because most channels have pretty much slowed down to a crawl at this point in terms of growth. This channel is actually starting to grow faster than it ever has before. In fact, we are believing that by the end of this year, this channel may have grown so fast, it actually will have outpaced 2022 and 2023 combined. So fairly interesting to hear that something like that is the case. It seems crazy to see something like this, but still, huge thanks to everyone once again for subscribing and joining the channel. It's really cool to have everyone here with us, everyone enjoying the channel. I got to thank everyone once again. And also, I just saw someone, and this is how good we have it at this point, folks. James Laro said, "Sorry, Enforcers, I hear you were top 3 of FSB Mill Blogger hit list due to your popularity and fundraising. Worst news is that, let's see. Oh man, I think that's a joke. Like as I read the last part.
They put money on our heads.
I don't know, but we can largely say that we are on an FSB hit list because they did say that they were putting all pro Ukrainian military bloggers of any size and notoriety on the hit list, so we will be on it. I don't know if we're going to be like #1, but we will be on it. So it's kind of interesting to think that we have gotten big enough. An entire country wants us dead. That's kind of a weird way of looking at it.
I'm honored.
I'm honestly honored. Like I would say we are so pro-American, we're considered a threat by other countries. Like we're considered a target to be killed. That's how pro-American we are.
Know. It's like, those like really fast like American muscle cars. Some of them are banned from drag strips. Like they're so powerful. Like I think the Dodge Challenger Demon, I think is banned from tracks or something like that. Because it's so powerful. And Dodge used that as like an advertising line. Like we're so fast, we're banned from the drag strip. Like, can you believe it? It's like we're so like big with the news right now that we're literally hunted by Russia. What about that? But seriously though, like thankfully for us and the Russians that they're spying will know this. In Alabama, we are armed to the teeth. And also, we don't play around. And also, I'm somewhat paranoid as well, so I'm always got my head on a swivel looking for stuff like that. So the Russians are going to have a tough one with paranoid Matt, and also very, very well-armed Andrew as well, because he's actually much better armed than I am. And I'm pretty well-armed, but I'm telling you, Andrew's got an arsenal, like really.
I've got to tell you something. Matthew is very paranoid. Those Ivy League people, they didn't want me here.
Like, it's beyond that.
I am so paranoid. It's a good quality to have when you have a whole country putting bounties on your head and stuff like that.
I mean, that is crazy, man. We've gotten to the point that an entire country wants us dead. That's actually wild when you think about it. It's like Russia put us on a list. Like, they put a lot of people on that list, but we're on that list as well. It's like, that's a little bit bizarre, but it is what it is. I mean, if we ever got poisoned or died or anything doing this, I mean, it just would end up being what it is. I mean, would I do something else? Would I run away and cower down? because of that? No, not really. I mean, it would happen. Like, even like the thing that about it with people who cower down and run away because of stuff like that, it's like they're still going to get you anyways, just because you were a part of it at some point. So why run away? Just stand your ground. You know, if it happens, it happens, and it is what it is. At least I was a pro-American and a pro-Westerner the entire time I was doing it. I died a martyr for my cause. But anyway, so
Also, I have faith. I have faith in the FBI. They'll catch it before anything happens.
Well, Matthew, I heard that there are some very sloped roofs near our house, and I think there will be no help for us. I think there will be no
Are you
help
telling
for us.
me I have faith in the federal authorities to protect me? Oh.
Well, remember when I called up the FBI and I told them about that person who was trying to get us swatted at, law school and all that stuff, and they say, "Yeah, we'll call you back," and they never did. Like, I have great faith in the federal government. It's just that I don't have great faith in them protecting us. That's all.
Honestly, though, I will say this. Because I know there's people that watching this channel right now that are probably involved in the federal government. In fact, I know 2 of them. So I honestly have faith in the federal government. I think the FBI would catch that and stuff like that. I have faith that they're looking at this very closely. Y'all, please look at this very closely. And also, whoever's listening, like just remember that the enforcers love the protection, and we love the Fed, and we would appreciate that good protection.
Yeah, we actually do like the federal government. A lot of them watch, funnily enough. So, of course, we hope that y'all are on the case. We hope that y'all are looking very diligently out there into the world, making sure nothing's coming our way or doing us or any other citizens of America any sort of harm. Because it would be very unfortunate if that did happen, especially because I'd be dead. So, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And a lot of people are going to be saying, "Oh, come on, you're BSing about feds watching the channel." No. Y'all actually wouldn't believe the insane number of federal employees of different agencies that watch this channel. It is insane. We know of plenty of them that watch. Like, they don't say it, but we know of plenty of them. On top of that, Petraeus, who was a former CIA director, he put us in his book, his history book. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who watch this channel. We know that a lot of them are. Big shout out to them. We respect the American government because we're pro-American and pro-Western, eh? And so with that, we are on to the next one. But I still gotta say, big thanks to you once again for helping this channel to keep on running, Hokey Redneck, and making this channel a reality. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, I saw Caleb McLean saying the live chat. He said, "Watch out for Chechens taking pictures of your place." You remember the last time Chechens showed up down here in the South? It didn't go very well for those Chechens. It went sideways very badly. And I think it was an army sergeant or something like that came outside and taught them a lesson for being watching their children like that. So it didn't go too well. But anyways, jumping into our next super chat here, we have a very generous $50 donation from Cyprian Akoni. And thank you very much for the first ever super chat on the stream. We appreciate that very much. And Cyprian says, "I love to see the USA supporting Ukraine, and you guys are great." And thank you, Cyprian. They said, "I hope Australian pick up support, and God bless."
And God bless. And thank you so much for the support, Cyprian Akoni. And thank you for your first super chat ever. That is a very big first super chat. And I got to thank you so much for enjoying this channel and supporting it so that way we can keep this thing running. Your support helps us to be able to make a living so that way we can keep this possible and keep everything behind the scenes, all the bills and stuff paid. So big shout out to you. Big thanks to you. And also on top of that, thank you so much for saying that you love to see the United States supporting Ukraine. We are the leader of the Western sphere, and so we have to support Ukraine because it's within the Western interests to support Ukraine. And so, of course, for that reason, we have to support them. And I think that it's a good thing that we are. I think it's great that a lot of countries have banded together to support Ukraine here in the West, and I hope that we are able to see them through to victory on in the end, and make sure to ensure Western interests at the same time. Because a lot of this is one thing that I have to say, at least in my opinion, Cyprian, and this is how I view it on this channel. A lot of people out there are pro-Ukrainian, but they're pro-Ukrainian to the detriment of really saying that it doesn't matter if the West doesn't get anything out of it. It just matters that Ukraine does okay. And that's not really my mindset. My mindset is more so that the only reason we are supporting Ukraine is because if they win, the West gets what we want out of it, and Ukraine also gets, as a secondary thing, what they want out of it as well. So that's generally how I look at it here. I'd love to know the United States is supporting Ukraine, but once again, we are supporting them because it's within America's interest to do so. And so with that, big thank you so much once again, Cyprian Coney. I hope that does address that well, and thank you for your first super chat ever in helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next here, we have a $40 super chat from Dragoon, and thank you very much, Dragoon, for that $40 support.
Damn.
Oh, damn. This is so rough. But anyways, Dragoon said LSA rules.
And the LSA does rule, Dragoon, and thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is absolutely wonderful to know that people are huge fans of the LSA. The LSA is an amazing organization, pro-Western and pro-American through and through. It's a very interesting organization because unlike others, unlike other organizations that scream, the LSA whispers. And it's actually pretty cool because from what we know, the LSA is one of the largest communities out there that is supporting Ukraine. There's not many others that are as big or larger than the Lee Spring Army, and so it's pretty cool to know that this channel lays claim to that. That's incredibly neat to me, and a huge thanks to you once again for the support, Dragoon, and helping this channel to keep on running, because you're the one who makes it possible for us to run this stream day in and day out, and the one that makes it possible for the Lee Spring Army to have a home. And so big thanks to you once again, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Hal Rose, who puts in a $33 donation, and thank you very much, Hal, as well, for that support. Longtime channel legend, by the way. He said, Enforcer Matt, why the LSA is 265,000 strong, now 266,000 strong, is simple. Together, we all support Ukraine, and your resolve has given us a gathering spot. And the daily shorts are great, and so rabbit hole all you like on any night but Sunday.
And I thank you so much for the support. Hal Rose, thank you for being an old guard of the channel, by the way, and helping it keep on running. But to answer your question, a very interesting question. It is crazy to see the 266,000 people have gathered here together. And you could say that a lot of them do support Ukraine, but interestingly enough, we've largely started to grow this channel for sure into being really pro-Western as a whole, because we've ended up cultivating a community that's really just in support of Western interests anywhere they are around the world. So they're pro-Ukrainian, pro-Israel, pro-Taiwan, and it's a very nice thing to see a community like that, because it's very rare that you see any communities anymore that stand on a logical ground, at least as far as their thinking goes, and supports some kind of a pro-Western front against the axis of evil in this world. You don't see a lot of groups like that, because some people will go, oh, I hate Ukraine, oh, I want them to lose, I think the Russians should win and we should screw over the West in our interest, but I love Israel and we should give them so much money because they're fighting these evil Iranians. And it's like, I don't know how people like do different things like that. Or better yet, the opposite of that is, oh, I hate Israel. Israel is so wrong. I wish they'd all die in a hole. I wish the Iranians would win. It might screw us over in the Middle East, but whatever. I just hate American and Western interests so much. And then with Ukraine, oh, I love Ukraine. Oh, how cute, how precious. We must give them more money. And it's like, why in the world do y'all just use the same mindset for both? You know, like, I don't know why, because it's like, it's the same thing in two different areas of the world. It's the axis of evil versus the West. It's not, oh, who owns the land in Israel, and oh, who owns the land in Ukraine, or is there any kind of corruption in these governments? That's not the arguments that are being made. It is us versus them. And at the end of the day, who is with us and who is against us? And that's what this channel has worked off of as its basic logic the entire time. And that's why I have to say that it is incredibly good to see that this community stands for those kinds of principles, unlike others that are very hypocritical with their assessments. It's crazy to see that. And so I got to say, thank you so much once again for support. Thank you for saying that we are pro-Ukrainian. We're pro-Western and pro-Ukrainian because of that. And thank you so much once again for that support. Also, thank you so much for saying that you enjoy the daily shorts. The daily shorts have been doing wildly well. Even yesterday's daily short, we didn't make one today because there wasn't really enough news in the middle of the day to make one, but yesterday's short war summary actually ended up getting 283,000 views. That is more views than this channel has subscribers, and it's been like that for weeks now, that every single video has been like that. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. I thank you so much once again for support and the kind words as well. And with that, we are on to the next one. But a huge thanks to you once again for the support.
Yes, indeed. And moving on here to our next super chat, we have one from Live Laugh Toaster Bath, who puts in a $31 donation. And thank you very much, Live Laugh Toaster, for that support. I said, please throw this in for the Sunday night fundraiser. They said, any news on China, Taiwan, and the Koreas?
And thank you so much for the support, Live Laugh Toaster Bath. And thank you for wanting to throw that into the Sunday night fundraiser. But really quickly, though, Live Laugh Toaster Bath, I do have to say that we generally dissuade people from throwing in super chats and then wanting that to be thrown into a Sunday fundraiser, because it starts to kind of confuse the monetary streams that we have on this channel. For some, the super chats do not go to supporting Ukraine. That goes to helping Matthew and me make a living doing this, to explain this to everyone who may be new here. We run this channel as our full-time jobs. This is pretty much a business for us to run this channel and to cover this kind of news. And so for that reason, we have to be able to make a living doing this, and that's what super chats are for. We don't run ads, we don't run sponsors, but if people want to support the channel and help it to keep on running, they can throw in a super chat, and that helps to make this possible. But none of that money that you send in a super chat, you should ever expect to go to supporting Ukraine, because we leave that up to y'all on sending your money either to us or to Ukraine. We don't do the really questionable thing that a lot of other people do, where you just throw it into one big pot that goes to them and then they send some of it to Ukraine. We do not do that. We let y'all decide instead and see that up front. So if you want to support the channel, you can throw in a $20 super chat right now, or if you want to support Ukraine, you can wait until Sunday every single week, like tomorrow, and we will set up a Sunday night fundraiser then, and then we will throw, well, not we, y'all can throw in as many donations as y'all want to that fundraiser, and that nonprofit is always picked out as one that is working and operating in Ukraine and helping them out. That's largely how we run this. And also the other thing is that with super chats, like for example with Live Laugh Toaster Bath throwing in a $31 super chat, we don't make $31 on that super chat. YouTube actually makes 30% of every single super chat theirs. So instead of us actually getting $31 on that super chat, we get $20.70. And so then we have to put in $31 into the Sunday night fundraiser, because we're obligated to, because Live Laugh Toaster Bath asked for that, and I'm not gonna say no. But at the same time, we end up losing about $10 or $11, and that doesn't seem like a lot.
And also, we got to pay taxes on it too.
Yeah, and we have to pay taxes on it as well, which is another thing about that. But $10 doesn't seem like a lot, and it really isn't a lot, and that's why I'm fine with doing this for Live Laugh Toaster Bath. But if people threw in thousands of dollars of super chats and everyone wanted it to go to the Sunday night fundraiser, we are going to be having to spend thousands of dollars out of pocket covering the cost in between the 30% that YouTube takes out, and then probably about the 50 to 40% that the government's going to take out in taxes. And I know a lot of people are going to be going, wait a minute, 40 to 50%? You must be making like $500,000 a year. No, we actually make a lot less than that. The reality is, though, is that we have to pay self-employment tax, which adds an additional 15%. Onto whatever tax bracket we're in. So we almost end up paying half of all of our income in taxes every year running this channel. So it's something that we really don't want to do, like with that kind of stuff often, but thank you so much for wanting that thrown in, and I will make sure to add that to the $100 I throw in every single Sunday, and so it'll be $131 instead. And so with that, thank you so much once again for wanting to throw that in, Live Laugh Toaster Bath, and helping this channel to keep on supporting those fundraisers. But I wanted to make sure to address that, because I don't want people thinking that that's like a really easy, convenient thing to do, because if thousands of dollars came in like that and we had to go throw that into a fundraiser, we would end up losing our shirts over probably just a matter of a few weeks. So I hope that does address that fairly well as to why we can't do that a lot and why we generally discourage people from doing that. And also, just to put this out there, the kind of kill switch that we have on that is that if for some reason that ever did start to happen and people started throwing in like hundreds of dollars and saying, hey, go throw this into the Sunday fundraiser, we probably just have to tell people we couldn't, because if people started to do that as some sort of a way to try and abuse how we run the channel somehow, we would have to just cut that off, because we try and make it, we don't try, we make the divide very clear in between super chats and Sunday night fundraisers. Super chats go to supporting this channel and help us to be able to do this as a job. If y'all want to help this channel to be possible and y'all want to support us so that we can keep working on this thing full time, you throw in a super chat. But if you want to support a fundraiser and you want your money to go to Ukraine instead, either you can click on the link in the description below to United 24 and donate directly to them, which is always an option every single day, or you can wait until Sunday and then support the nonprofit that we have lined up for everyone that is operating in Ukraine and helping them out. And so I hope that does address that very well. We make that divide so that way y'all can choose, so that way you're not like giving us like $100 and then praying to God that some of that makes it to Ukraine. So we let y'all decide exactly how much of y'all's money is going to us or how much of y'all's money is going to Ukraine instead. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And I know that was a very, very long explanation that I went into, but I try and make that as clear as possible because for some reason, with the way we run this channel, everyone always wants to act, well, not everyone. Some people out there try and make it sound like this is shady, how we run this thing, although I think it's as transparent and open as it can possibly be, because y'all actually have the transparency of either giving money directly to us, which you can see live on air every single night in the live chat, or you can give your money to Ukraine. And there is no middle ground or any kind of fogginess going on how much of your money actually is going to Ukraine versus how much is going into our pockets. There is a lot of that here on YouTube. And interesting enough, it's always the people who do that kind of stuff who say that the way we run this channel as far as the monetization side of things is questionable. It's always those people who just tell you to, hey, give all of your money to me and then I'll get it to Ukraine. It's always those people who say that stuff about us. Instead of the other way around. And so we generally from day one have wanted to avoid getting into that kind of a shady monetization model because you never really know how much of your money is actually going to Ukraine versus to them. Because sometimes it might be incredibly low. Like you give them $100 and then only like $8 of that actually makes it to Ukraine. The other $92 they keep for themselves. We try and remove all of that questionability by doing this the way we do it. But still, Live Laugh Toaster Bass, a $31 super chat will be added on to my 100 for the Sunday night fundraiser tomorrow. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, incredibly well. And with that, we are on to, oh, wait a minute, actually there was an additional question. Any news on the China, Taiwan, and the Koreas? Not really at the moment. China and Taiwan have kind of cooled down for a bit. The Chinese are still trying to conduct low-level coercion with breaches of the median line and things like that. And in the Koreas, the tensions have also died down a little bit, at least publicly, although they still run high in the background on diplomatic channels. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next super chat here is going to go to Gunfox61, who puts in a $30 donation. And thank you very much, Gunfox, for that support.
Hey!
And also, Gunfox said, today in history, in 1969, a monstrous Category 5 hurricane, Camille, killed 259 and caused 1.42 billion in damage. And in 1945, Indonesian National Revolution begins Phantasmagory. In 1908, take a question from the chat. USS United States, CVA 58.
And thank you so much for the support, Gunfox61. And also, I gotta say, thank you for once again doing the day in history stuff. That is incredibly cool. Also, the Hurricane Camille incident was a really major one. A lot of people think Hurricane Katrina was bad. Camille was worse for sure. And a lot of people who grew up before Katrina was a thing viewed Camille as their Katrina. So that's actually kind of like an interesting fact about that. Also, the 1945 Indonesian National Revolution begins. Wasn't that the beginning of the Malayan crisis? I think it was, if I'm remembering that correctly. But still, also, let me go pull up the CVN 58.
You know, we got a Category 5 hurricane coming to us right now. It's like Hurricane Barrelin or something like that. It's coming fast.
It really is. It's coming in quickly. But still, let's see here. Hang on here. I'm trying to. Oh. What do you know? Well, what do you know, Matthew? I found this interesting thing right here. This is a CVA 58. It's some kind of a supercarrier concept.
That looks like just a flat piece of concrete. Where's the tower at?
There is no tower. You just
bad idea.
Really bad idea. Like it's like any kind of flight control, like of the flight deck? Nope. You just pray, and only one elevator at the very stern of the carrier. This was a bad idea. Like, I think I know why this thing got canceled, but still kind of neat. Like, it is kind of neat, but I don't really know about this thing. It seems kind of a little bit rough. And in real life, it actually got succeeded by the Forrestal class, which was a lot more of a practical design. I think this is the one that preceded the Nemitz class. Actually, succeeded by Kitty Hawk and yeah, so this is the one that would end up being before the whatchamacallit, the nuclear carriers, if I'm correct. Let's see what the power plant on this thing was. Was it a nuclear power plant? I don't think it was. The propulsion, steam turbines, 8 steam turbines, but what are those boilers? Like, are they like coal fired, oil fired?
Have you ever seen those boilers? Oh man, it could be a iron marshmallow boiler, or it could be the next Polar Chesty. I don't know.
You could be. Oh no. Why not use Daniel Daly as the example?
What happened?
No, I'm talking about, like, in seriousness about the whole Chesty Puller thing. Why not use Daniel Daly instead? Daniel Daly was a legend. It's like, I don't get it. But anyways, with that, still pretty cool carrier, pretty neat. Like, I don't think anyone could disagree. Manny, can you disagree? You can't disagree. This is cool. But beyond that,
I think it looks good.
Beyond that, I gotta say, thank you once again for support, GunFox61, and helping this channel to keep on running. And we will make sure to get a live chat question in your honor. And so, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so this one goes to Knox Date, who says, is Iran going to attack? Or is it just on hold because of the ceasefire talk? And it will say forever. You know what, Knox Date? I honestly don't know what's going on at this point, because it sounded like Iran was going to attack for just a moment, but now we're hearing that the ceasefire talks are underway. But oddly enough, Hamas is out in public saying that they're not agreeable to anything that's being discussed, but yet in private it sounds like the Iranian government is actually considering it. So I'm not really sure what's happening with that. I'm kind of shocked if the ceasefire talks making any progress, because it sounded to me like it was pretty much a dead end. So maybe Iran got scared because they saw the aircraft carriers and stuff around the area. That could be it as well. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that, in my opinion, in my honest opinion, I don't really know what's happening down there anymore. We don't know if an attack is ever going to happen or not. And of course, Hezbollah doesn't really seem like a big fan of anything going on, like Matthew said, but that doesn't really mean much of anything. Because if they don't have the backing of the IRGC or the Iranians as a whole, they're not going to be able to do much or sustain anything for a while. So that would be my honest opinion, at least right now. And of course, long live the Late Spring Army. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, so moving on here to our next super chat. This one's going to go to Cyprian Oconee once again, the second super chat of the night. And this time they put in another 50. It looks like a 50 Australian. And thank you very much, Cyprian, for that very generous support the second time. And they said, they put in the love emoji right there. They said, this is for you, Enforcers. And thank you very much, Cyprian.
Hey, and thank you so much, Cyprian. That is greatly appreciative of you. And thank you so much once again for enjoying this channel and really wanting it to keep on running and helping to support it, because it is folks like you, Cyprian, who make this thing possible. I got to thank you massively for helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, where would we be right now? We wouldn't be able to be here, that's for sure. I don't know where we'd be beyond that, but we wouldn't be able to be here right now. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one right here goes to Hokey Redneck, who's also, it goes without saying, a channel legend. He puts in another $50 donation. Massive support, and thank you very much, Hokey. He said, to help cover my taxes from a couple of weeks ago for the Saturday Forward. And he said, I won't do that again, but send one to the chat.
And I thank you so much for the support, Hokey Redneck. And don't worry, it's perfectly fine. Because when those come in every here and there, it's perfectly fine for us to do that and eat the cost. Because it's not that big of a cost in the big circle of things. Like, say, $30 or $50 on a Sunday fundraiser night, because I'm already putting in $100. So if I have to take another $50, like loss on that, that's totally fine. But the reason why I make that big disclaimer is because I want to let people know we can't do that as like a regular thing. Like we can't have every single super chat come in with everyone saying put it towards the Sunday night fundraiser, because then not only are we not making a living and being able to do this as a job, we are actually actively losing money. And so, you know, there's only a set amount of time that we can do that until we go broke. And then I'm like, hey, we have to stop, you know, and so I thank you so much for wanting to cover the taxes from last time. I was just making sure to say that so that way everyone would know, so that way people aren't just coming in willy-nilly, because the truth is, like, I know that this is how it would go. Hot Dog Man's people are always trying to scheme up some way to try and break this channel or how it works somehow. Like, they tried to do that with the merch store, I think, once or twice, and Matthew had to go through and try and make sure that it was hot dog people proof, because they tried to actually find a way to scam our merch store when it ran for the first time with the LSA flag. So we had to like scam proof it from the start, so that way their people couldn't try and scam the thing. But as far as that goes, we know that we have to make that very clear, and we also have to make it clear that if that happened too much, we would have to just not honor that, because they would come in, and because I know how it will work, they would go, oh, we could make the enforcers broke because they're going to try and follow through with upholding that promise every time. Let's all throw in hundreds to them, and then they'll try and do something like that, and so we end up having to put put like a limit, or let people like openly know we can't do that too much. Because if we did, we're going to be putting ourselves into a good deal of trouble. I don't mean to put it out there like it's an urgent thing, or really talk a lot about the channel's finances and how things work in the background, but also at the same time, we want the paths to be clear as they can be, because already, with us running literally the most transparent fundraisers run on YouTube, by just fundraising through the YouTube platform, there are small little groups of people out there in the hater camps, like the Hot Dog Man's channel, that will sit there and say stuff like, we steal the money out of the fundraisers, when there literally is no physical way we can, because it's built into YouTube's system, and they open up a bank account and they manage the entire thing separated from us. And so it's like, that's a complete farce. But then whenever anyone throws in a super chat like that, and then they say throw that into the fundraiser or something, and then we do, they'll still try and make something out of that. And while people will be like, well, it's markedly untrue, you know, you shouldn't have to worry about it, people out there, from what we can understand, are really stupid, and they don't really follow through a lot with trying to research the claims that some of these clowns make. And so people then just start believing that we're like scamming people and we're stealing money or something like that, when we don't try. We literally make everything as straightforward and transparent as we can. And then when people throw in super chats like that, and then they wanted to go to a Sunday fundraiser, they're giving these clowns a little bit extra credibility, at least if no one looks deeper than the stupid story they put out about that. And then people just believe that for no reason. Like, people really, like, one thing I've seen recently is that people will literally believe anything as long as you tell them the story first. Out there in like the YouTube world, like, you can sit there and say something, you know, because you were harassed by someone and they were trying to get you killed, and then someone else went and backed them up, and so you're pissed off at them because they backed up someone who was actively trying to harass you and get you injured or killed. So you're pissed off at them, so you make an offhanded comment at them, because it still pisses me off, and I don't know why they haven't backed off of the statements that they made back then. And then they want to spin it as to, I want them to be my friend, and they don't want to be my friend, which is a really stupid way of doing it. And then people just believe that story because they were the first one to put it out for them. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. Thank you once again for support, Hokey Redneck, and helping this channel to keep on running. But with that, let's see. And also, Anstaman said, maybe you should keep all the money and just donate a percentage. You can prove it if anyone challenges you. Nah, because I don't like that. I don't like handling the money that's supposed to be going to Ukraine, because that throws in a really weird kind of a thing. Like I don't like that. Like, we do that with the merch store. Like, 10% of the profits from those sales go to United 24 every single time a limited edition run is done. But that's something where we can't like segregate the money off of the bat where y'all choose where it goes. We just have to send it 10%. But I don't want to do that as like a bucket thing, because, you know, like that is rife for some kind of like a scammy kind of environment to happen in. And I don't even want this channel to get down into that level of doing things like that, where it could actually be insinuated that that we're trying to pull the wool over people's eyes or something like that, and there's actual validity to it. The way we run it right now, it's as transparent and straightforward as it can get. Like, if you want to support us, it's a super chat. If you want to support Ukraine, Sunday Night Fundraiser, or the link in the description below to United24. That is like the clearest, most split way that we can run it. And not only that, it actually gives y'all the option, instead of us, you know, figuring out how to split the money, how much of it goes to us or how much of it goes to Ukraine. It gives y'all the option of deciding how much of y'all's money goes to us and how much of it goes to Ukraine, which I feel like is a much better way of doing things. Instead of putting that decision on us, it's actually on y'all as the individuals. Y'all get a lot more say in that kind of stuff. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least the best I can. And with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope I was able to address that fairly well, and we will make sure to send one to the chat. And so what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so this live chat question right here goes to Quantum Fighter, and they said, are the IAEA allowed to inspect the Zaporizhzhia NPP?
They are, but it's only at the allowance of the Russians, so it's very limited on what they can actually inspect and where they can inspect the plant at. So I hope that does address that the best I can, at least given the knowledge I have of how that's worked in the past. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Garristock 8CR, who puts in a $25 donation.
Hey!
And thank you very much, Garristock, for that support. He said, greetings from Costa Rica.
And hello to Costa Rica. And incredibly cool to know that we have a viewer all the way from Costa Rica. Right down here. I don't know why the hell I was looking in the Caribbean. I was like, why am I looking over here? I'm supposed to be looking just north of Panama. But beyond that, really cool to know that you're one of our viewers from Costa Rica. Why in the world am I having such a hard time talking right now?
Puerto Rico.
Man, remember that one time? Puerto Rico. And we were like,
man, I just like the way that that one fella says. He says, Puerto Rico.
Man,
like, what's he saying?
Man, why in the hell does that sound like the same accent that was used on Red Dead Redemption 2 when they landed on the island of Guarma? They were like, welcome to Guarma. You know, it's like the same.
Costa Rica.
But still, Costa Rica is a pretty interesting place. I really like the name, honestly. I think Costa Rica is a cool name. And I got to thank you so much once again for support. Garritonsk 8CR, and once again, helping this channel to keep on running. Because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And so, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Gene O'Reilly, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Gene, for that support. They said, longtime listener, by get unsubscribed, Elmo Stevener Day. I think they meant to say almost every day. And good job, boys, and Slav Ukraine and LSA. And also, huge shout out to you. I don't know why YouTube does that. They randomly unsubscribe people from the channel. It's a glitch, obviously. I wish they would fix it, like a lot of other things as well. But hopefully they do. But thank you very much for the support.
And I got to thank you so much for the support as well, John O'Reilly. And I also got to say, I hate to hear that happens. YouTube says... the thing that we found out about YouTube, this is an interesting one, is that that's probably a glitch. But then if we ever ask YouTube about it, they'll say something like, oh, that is one of our automated tests, making sure that your viewers are real subscribers. Because if they're real, they will subscribe. But it's honestly a glitch. So I hate to hear that that's happening to you. I thank you so much for the support, though, and I thank you for bearing with that and continuously resubscribing. But I wish YouTube would eventually sort that out and fix it for folks, because I know it's got to be really annoying when YouTube functions do not work, because it's really annoying on our end running the channel when they don't, because there are other things behind the scenes that sometimes don't work. Like, I won't go through some of the examples, but still, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat here is going to go to Natasha Millman, who puts in a $20 donation, and thank you very much, Natasha, as well for that support. And I do not see a comment attached, but of course, thank you very much for helping to keep the lights on. And Enforcer, what say you?
Hey, thank you so much for the support, Natasha Millman. Millman. Why on the road I had such a hard time saying that, but still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. You didn't throw in a comment, but the support is absolutely incredible. It helps us to keep this channel running, and I got to thank you once again for the incredible support, because if it was not for folks like you in the Lee Spring Army, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible day in and day out. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Live, Laugh, Toaster Bath once again, who puts in a 15 this time. And thank you very much, Toaster Bath, for that support. They said, happy Sunday, Enforcers. Sunday? Is it already? Sunday? I mean, I could be here in about 12 minutes. They said, I'm hoping that you're feeling better. And I am. I'm 75% better. Thank you for asking. They said, take a live chat, please, in LSA.
And thank you so much for the support. Live, Laugh, Toaster, Bath. And thank you so much for wishing us a happy Sunday. It will be in 10 minutes here in our time zone. But I thank you so much for hoping that we're feeling better. I'm feeling a lot better. In fact, I haven't felt bad at all tonight. I feel great. I feel incredible. I feel rejuvenated. I feel absolutely amazing. The only part that isn't amazing is that I dropped off some guns somewhere for cleaning today, and it took them 2 weeks to clean them, and I just got them back, and none of them are clean. And also the gas tube was completely disconnected on one of the valves. But beyond that, hey, it was a good day. I got to say, it was a great day, and I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running, and we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And so a huge thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and also advise him to steal public resources and open an account in Peru banks. What the hell is this?
They were revenge movies recommendation worth $1 million.
Dollars.
What the hell kind of account is this?
man, I got so much money, it looks like a bunch of fists in my pocket or something like that's this person with $1 million. Like, it's not dollars. It's dollars. Like with DOLLAS. I've never seen it.
What's a revenge movie?
I don't know what a revenge movie is. Man, that's that Revang. Like, that's that Revang movie right there. Yeah, but I don't know what the hell any of that is about. But still, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, Live, Laugh, Toaster, Bath. And we will make sure to take a live chat in here on that. And so what do we got, Matthew?
All right. So the live chat question here is going to go to Dunkel, who said, I am new to the channel, and welcome to the channel, by the way. He said, what made y'all decide to take on this endeavor, and have either of you taken a day off? And thanks to both of you.
Oh, wow. Great question. That is actually a really good one. And it kind of allows us to talk a little bit about what we do behind the scenes. And welcome to the channel, Dunkel, by the way. What made us decide to take on this endeavor was something that happened really long ago. That's actually changed a lot since then, but I'll explain what started this. So way back in 2021, in late 2021, I started this channel as a current events and news channel. It didn't really do that well at the start. It was originally named Think Tank. I think both of my videos got like 400 views each. What I did not know at the time, though, is that those were actually knockouts out of the park for the size of my channel, because I only had 10 subscribers or 14 subscribers those days that those videos went up, and somehow I was getting like 400 views. So by the metrics, that was actually incredibly good, what I was doing there, but I didn't know that at the time, so I kind of got a little disappointed, and then I went over to making video game videos, like on video games. And so then it became a gaming channel, and that's when the channel got changed from Think Tank to The Enforcer, because that's my in-game name on most video games. So then the channel did some gaming stuff. Then the war in Ukraine began again. Well, didn't begin again. It began on the 23rd of February. And the reason why the channel started, although it's evolved a lot since then, was because Matthew and me had a friend that we knew from high school that was a foreign exchange student from Ukraine. And I actually learned a lot about Ukraine from this guy. He's really the only reason why I ever took interest in Ukraine and reading about their armed forces and the Russian armed forces and all that stuff over there in Eastern Europe pertaining to Ukraine and Russia. The guy was actually pretty cool. But he went back, of course, at the end of the year, back to Ukraine in like 2019, and I never really talked to the guy much after that because he's in a completely different time zone, so he's awake while we're asleep. But nevertheless, when the war started, I was like, dang, that's gotta suck, you know, because he's over there and the Russians are advancing and everyone's saying that Ukraine's going to collapse in like 3 days to a week, and literally coming right off of the back of Afghanistan, which, you know, Afghanistan collapsed literally within weeks. It looked like that would be true. So what the premise of the channel was starting off was to try and get the most accurate reporting possible on the exact locations of where the Russian army was inside of Ukraine, and then try and tell people what highways and what rail networks were open for people to get on and try and get out of Ukraine or to get away from the Russian army. That was the premise that the channel was largely running on for like the first 4 days. But by the 4th day, because the 4th day was when the channel blew up and the live stream viewership became a lot larger than just a small group of people and just trying to tell a small number of people where to go and how to get out of there. On the 4th day, the channel blew up, and so the premise changed from trying to tell people how to get out to telling everyone who had just hopped onto the channel what was going on in Ukraine every single day. And then from there, it ended up evolving into a full-on news channel, not just about Ukraine, but about things going on around the world. So that's kind of how the channel started. Other channel, what was interesting about that too is that I was actually live running a stream within hour 1 of the war. So when we go live every single night at 10 p.m. Eastern time, that is the exact same time that I went live 906 days ago on the first day of the war, about 1 hour into the war beginning. That was the exact same time. So that's why the stream starts at this time. It would start earlier, but if it did, it would throw off the whole 24-hour cycle that we've been having going on for 906 days at this point, where the stream goes live every 24 hours after hour 1 of the war. And also that's why our map is color-coded in a certain way. Instead of the beginning of the week on these maps that I make being like Monday or something like that, the beginning of the week on these maps is Thursday, because the war started on a Thursday 906 days ago. So that's kind of how everything worked around this channel and how it started and how it's kind of evolved and stuff, like some specific key elements of it. But then the other part of your question was, have either of you taken a day off? We have taken a very small number of days off. We have taken, I think, 1 day off for Christmas last year. We took 1 day, I think we took 2 days off for Thanksgiving, and then the year before that, I think we took 1 day off. No, I think we actually took 2 days off for Christmas the first year, and then we took a day off for Thanksgiving as well. So we've maybe taken like 5 voluntary days off, like they're specifically for just like major holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving. And then I ended up having to take 4 days off last year because I ended up getting the Wuhan whirlybird. And so I was literally so sick I just could not come on air. I had like a fever of 103 and stuff for like 2 straight days. So, and also I could hardly talk, so it was impossible to get on air. So in total, Matthew and me have maybe each taken a little bit around like 8 days off over 906 days. And then Mondays we don't run streams, but we're working on other stuff behind the scenes. So technically we work about 7 days a week, unless if it's like a national holiday or a major holiday like Thanksgiving or Christmas, or if we're really, really sick, then we take days off as well. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, because we do take, well, we don't take days off like as a regular habit, but we do take like a few, very, very few off here and there. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. But beyond that, you can always count on us pretty much working 7 days a week nonstop. Everyone in our house wants to take a vacation right now, but the honest truth is that Matthew and me have told our parents, because they want to take a vacation with us as like a family, we told them, you know, hell, we can't take a vacation because we are still doing this thing. You know, and so we don't want to stop it. We want to keep it going. And that's something that a lot of people don't get, is that we don't have to be here every single night. Like, we could take days off quite easily, but because we're so dedicated to this thing, we don't want to take days off. We just want to keep doing this every single night, because we've kept up such a good streak for so long, doing this every single day and being the voice of news every single day. We don't want to just up and leave y'all out of the blue, just you know, go on several day-long trips somewhere or something like that. So, you know, we'd rather just work. But with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well, the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, real quick, I saw Temujin say in the live chat, he said, I've done super chats on the last 2 streams, including tonight, and they don't show up, but they get billed. Do you have any idea why? Unfortunately, that is a YouTube glitch. That's happened before. typically what happens is it won't come through. YouTube will realize it didn't come through, and then they'll simply give it back to your card. That's typically what happens with that. So sorry to hear that, by the way, because I hate the glitches. Like, it seems like the glitches are growing these days. It seems like they're getting worse before they're getting better. So sorry about that, Temujin, but thank you for trying, though. We appreciate the thought. But with that, we're moving on to our next super chat, which goes to Andy L, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Andy, for that support. And also, I see Andy in the live chat tonight, so he's back, and YouTube's finally letting him back in again, thankfully. He said, "I'm here for you."
Hey, and thank you so much for being here for us, Andy L. And thank you so much for the support again tonight and helping the channel to keep rolling, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible, and folks like you who give us the inspiration to keep on doing this thing every single night. And so a big shout out and a big thanks to you once again. And Andy L said YouTube sucks. Well, of course, considering that we're on YouTube, I can't say it sucks, but I can't say that YouTube is having some glitches and flaws these days that hopefully will have a strong whole of YouTube approach to fixing them. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, Andy L. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Cypress96, who puts in a $30 donation. And thank you, Cypress, as well, for that support. They said, "I didn't realize that you lose 30% to YouTube. And would it be better if we donate more on Patreon?"
And I thank you so much for the support, Cypress96. And yes, we do lose 30% of every single super chat to YouTube. YouTube just takes 30% of each one. And that's always a funny thing, is that people will look at the totals of the super chats, because you can literally just add them together during the course of the stream, and you can see how much we make in super chats. But what a lot of people don't realize is that YouTube takes 30% of that total. So if you really want to get an actual effective idea of what this channel made in super chats on a single given night, you add up all the super chats that you see coming on the stream, and then you multiply it by 0.7, which gives you a fairly accurate number on what we actually make. And then, of course, Matthew and me get paid out of that. So that's how it works. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think that if they throw in like a $50 super chat, we make $50. We don't. We make 70% of $50, because YouTube takes the other 30%. And then taxes get us at the end of every year, too. We love taxes, because YouTube isn't an employer. We are working on YouTube, but YouTube doesn't employ us. So then we are technically self-employed. So then we pay, federal taxes and state taxes state taxes in our brackets, but then they tack on additional taxes because we're self-employed, which is an additional 15%. So then if you're filing your taxes correctly, working on YouTube, even in like the lowest tax bracket, you pretty much end up paying about half of the income that we make on YouTube in taxes every single year. So we actually don't make that much, after YouTube takes their cut, and after the federal government and the state government takes their cut, we don't make it like an exorbitantly massive amount. We're not riding around in Lamborghinis or anything like that running this channel. Most of it ends up going to other people, the government or YouTube, but still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. It's something that we don't talk about a lot, because why in the world should we be telling folks, we don't make much after taxes and stuff. Like, it's not really that many. It's not something that we want to just tell people. Like, I don't really know why we would say that often. So there you go. There's a little nugget of information we don't tell folks a lot. But if you wanted to support us on Patreon, you can. The problem, the thing is, though, is that I don't really like that too much, because we can't really shout out folks on Patreon like we do with super chats. Like, honestly, I'm perfectly fine with YouTube taking 30% if it gives us the ability to actually recognize the folks who are making this channel possible and thank them on air for it. Because it is folks like you who are making this channel possible. And if it wasn't for folks like you, Cypress, we wouldn't be able to be here. And I want to make sure that we are able to thank each and every person like you and let everyone know on air. These people are pretty much sponsoring this entire show for everyone and making it possible. And I want everyone to know who those folks are, to be very thankful and appreciative for them. And I want y'all to know that we are incredibly grateful and appreciative for y'all's support as well. So if we end up taking a 30% hit on that, that's fine by me. But if y'all did want to support us on super chat, on Patreon, y'all can. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, someone said YouTube taking 30% is not taxes. Yeah, that's not, because YouTube takes 30%, and then out of the 70% of that money that we get from YouTube, because they take 30% of it out, then out of that 70% remaining, then the federal government and the state government takes about half of that. So then we like in total, let's see here, let me think. In total, out of all of the super chats that come into this channel, Matthew and me at the end of every year, we net about 35% of the income that we actually make, because the federal government takes 35% of it, and then YouTube takes another 30% of it in total. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least with how all that works in the background. We don't go into that much, but here y'all are tonight getting to hear about the scoop on how the channel finances work in the background. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Michael Smith, who puts in a 15. And thank you very much, Michael, for that support. He said, how many Ukraine soldiers have been eliminated in this incursion?
Not many. From this point, we're assuming that about 100 have been wounded and killed, and that's a really rough approximate because the Russians are putting out wild numbers. I mean, they said they destroyed an entire brigade, which is markedly untrue. So we're assuming about 100, maybe about a company level unit has been completely wiped out in terms of wounded and killed, but we don't think it's many of them because we just don't see a lot of proof and video and picture evidence, like verifiable proof of incredibly heavy losses in most instances. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for the support and help with this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one here goes to Live, Laugh, Toaster Bath, who puts in a 15 once again. And thank you very much, Live, Laugh, Toaster. He said, for the taxes enforcers, for the taxes. Oh, man, I hate the taxes. And also, I said in the live chat, I said, Uncle Sam wants a big chunk. Dude needs to slim down. He really does. He's taking too much. But anyways, they said, we'll donate to United 24 from now on. And apologies, YouTube doesn't let me donate being in Australia. And LSA.
And thank you so much for the support, Live, Laugh, Toaster Bath, and thank you for donating to the taxes fund. Out of that, 30% will go to YouTube. Another 35% of that will end up going to taxes, and then 35% of that has to be split up in between Matthew and me. And so I gotta say, thank you so much for the support to the taxes fund, and thank you so much for wanting to donate to United 24. We do have the link in the description below, and also I completely understand, Live, Laugh, Toaster Bath. You being an Australian, it's impossible for y'all to donate to our Sunday night fundraisers because for some reason Australia and New Zealand have laws that ban their citizens from supporting those fundraisers on YouTube. I don't know what's up with that, but that is the case, and it's always been the case. But I still thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, and that is the perfect alternative. If you are from Australia and New Zealand and you can't support the Sunday night fundraisers, make sure to just go directly to United 24 and support the Ukrainian government instead, because they do great work through United 24. And so with that, huge thanks once again. I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Cliff H, who puts in a 12. And thank you very much, Cliff, for that support. He said, have there been any confirmed F-16 combat missions and achievements in Ukraine so far? And LOC.
We haven't heard of any yet, Cliff H, to be entirely honest. So we're still kind of waiting on that, to really be flat out honest with you. So we have not heard of any yet. But still, long live the Lee Spring Army. Thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. With that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Samantha Owen, who puts in 18. Thank you very much, Samantha, for the support. And they said, struggling with credit card debt. And I'm sorry to hear that, by the way. They said, sorry, I can't afford more. And you are both worth a lot more. And take a question from the chat. And first of all, Samantha, if you're in a tough spot, please do not donate, first of all. But thank you very much for the generosity, and we appreciate it. But please, put yourself first in this one. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. But like Matthew said, if you're ever in a tough spot, never feel like you have to support the channel. We're perfectly fine, keeping this thing running. We never want anyone to get themselves in a tough spot trying to support the channel. Never we want that. And so please sit back and enjoy the show. It is perfectly fine to do that. We are perfectly okay with that. Just hit the like button. We'll be happy with that alone. But still, thank you so much once again for support tonight. But never feel pressured. And I hope that you are able to sort that out in the background and get things back on the right track. But we will make sure to take a live chat in your honor. And so what do we got, Matthew?
And this one goes to Adam Glegg, who says, what's up with China mobilizing 1,400 tanks?
China mobilizing 1,400 tanks? I have not heard about that. I would largely have to declare ignorance on that at the moment, unfortunately, because I haven't been hearing anything about China mobilizing any forces at the moment. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least on my end. And thank you once again, Samantha Owen, for supporting this channel and helping to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Nova Stardust, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Nova, for that support. And it said, this isn't a counter invasion. This is an intervention. And go home, Russia, you're drunk. And take one from the chat, LSA.
And I would say it is an intervention. And I gotta say, the Russians should go home. They are, in fact, drunk. And we will make sure to take one from the live chat as well. And what do we got, Matthew?
And this one is going to go to Plexus Gaming, who said, do you think Ukraine will do a referendum in Kursk?
I don't think they will, to be entirely honest. I don't really think they're adamantly wanting to try and create some sort of autonomous republic. I think it's a bit of a joke when they say that kind of stuff, like they're joking around about it. But I don't think they're ever planning on doing anything like that. It's probably going to be a land-for-land thing. And it'd be really hard to trade land for land when you create an autonomous entity inside of Russia. You can't really trade it for anything in the future. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Thank you so much once again for a very interesting live chat there. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Caleb McLean, who puts in a 10. And thank you, Caleb, as well. He said, hey, guys, I'm loving the stream. And I was wondering, whatever happened to the North Korean troops that were being sent to the front in Russia? And did they get wiped already?
We have never even heard of them arriving yet, to be honest. Like, we have never seen them actually show up. So we don't know if that was just a bunch of hype talk from the North Koreans and it was never going to happen, because logistically it would be nearly infeasible for them to support these forces all the way from North Korea in reality. So we haven't heard of them yet. We haven't seen them yet. They haven't been wiped out because they haven't even gotten there. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Jack Ray, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Jack. He says, here's something for the punching powder fund. And just to make sure it's for the creatine punching powder and not the hot dog punching powder. And the creatine punching powder. I should have more follow through. I'm telling you what, that punching powder, I'm telling you what, it's gonna live on forever. I'm telling you what, that was a world-class slip up right there. Punching power. I can't remember what I was trying to say in that one, but thank you very much, Jack Ray, for that support. I'll make sure I get the creatine one. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta say, thank you so much for the support, and thank you for the punching powder fund. We love punching powder. Punching powder is great powder. But still, thank you so much once again, Jack Ray, for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running and making sure to cement the punching powder into the annals of the Lee Spring Army's history. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and this one right here goes to Rad Doctor, who puts in a 10 and says, do you have reports of Russians now fighting along Ukrainians against Russia?
We have started to hear that a little bit. I've never gotten video evidence to confirm it yet, but there's a lot of rumors out there saying that that is the case. And so we are trying to confirm it. But at the moment, just based off of like the hearsay, it seems as though that is ending up being true on very, very small individual level instances. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, huge shout out to Margaret Hemsley, who put in an $8 donation. Thank you very much, Margaret, for that support. What's that?
I went a voice cracked, and then I went,
oh,
quietly.
And Margaret said, my DIL is watching for the first time, and you have a new LSA convert, and shout out to Claire, and hey! And they said she has a question, and I'll put it in the live chat if you can answer it, please.
And thank you so much for the support, Margaret Hemsley, and welcome to Claire to the Lee Spring Army. I hope you're having a fun time here. It's a great place. A wonderful place, and I hope that you've been enjoying tonight's stream. I gotta thank you so much, Margaret Hemsley, for bringing another member into the Lee Spring Army, and I gotta thank you for supporting this channel tonight as well and helping it to be possible, because if it was not for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here right now to have new converts joining the Lee Spring Army. And so with that, Matthew, do we have that live chat?
So I was looking through our spreadsheet here, and I'll be honest, I don't see it in here, and I did not see it come in earlier. So, Margaret, if you'd like to send us that question again, we will return to it, and we will answer it as soon as we see it.
And so with that, I hope that does address that well. We will immediately circle back to that once we find that. But a huge thanks to you once again for the support, Margaret Hemsley. And if you can just throw that question back in, we will grab it, and we will make sure to answer it. And so with that, big thanks once again. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to Keymaster and also Octanus, who each put in a $5 donation, and thank you both very much for that support. No comments to address, but we appreciate you both, Keymaster and Octanus, for that support and helping to keep the lights on and the channel running strong and the coffee brewing. And also, moving on to our next one here, we have a $10 super chat from Dunkel X. First ever super chat on the stream, and hey, let's go! He said, thanks for being passionate about every person in your community, old and new. And I appreciate you both for the hard work. And thanks for answering my question earlier. Slav Ukraine and LOC.
Hey, it's no biggie, Dunkel, and thank you for your first support ever. We're more than happy to answer questions of any kind, from whoever they may be, from wherever they are. We love to answer the questions. And also, thank you for saying that we're passionate about every person in the community. We try to be as much as we can. We try and give the same kind of attention and effort to every single person possible, whether they are massive super chatters of the stream and they help us to be able to do this as a job, or whether they are folks who are brand new just joining tonight, or whether they're people who have been here for years and have never supported the channel but just enjoy watching. We try and give everyone the same kind of time, attention, and effort and care, you know, like speaking about them and to them and stuff, because I feel like that's appropriate. I hate channels so much, and I'm going to be honest, I'm going to have to vent here for a second, Dunkel, that do the channel membership things, because one, it stratifies the live chat, and two, it literally gives the YouTubers a way to start treating people differently, because they know who's supporting them more and who's supporting them less, literally at a quick second's glance. I feel like that is one of the worst things ever, because that is just a way to start treating everyone in the live chat who doesn't support the channel like greater or lesser people just because of the amount of support they're giving. I don't like that stuff at all, and that's why we don't do it either, is because I want to make sure that we treat everyone the exact same. Everyone is an equal in the Lee Spring Army, and I feel like our live chat ought to reflect that by making sure that there's no like stratification through any kind of channel memberships or anything along those lines. And also, it looks tacky as hell in a live chat when people do that. I'm just not a big fan of that kind of stuff. But I still thank you so much for like paying attention and seeing that we do try and give as much passion and care to everyone in the community, because we really do try our best. It's actually pretty easy. I mean, like, until I was trying to find my words there, it's actually incredibly easy to do, because I look at everyone as the same. Everyone always adds an extra little piece to the Lee Spring Army, and that's why I'd love to try and, you know, just well, that's why I try. Well, that's why I treat everyone the same, because it's easy to do that. Everyone adds a little extra bit, and everyone's equally valuable in their own way to this channel. And so with that, a big thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, I got the question that Margaret Hemsley sponsored from Claire, and the question is right here. It says, what do you guys think about how Soviet command structures have influenced Ukrainian tactical decisions on the field and Russian incompetence?
Ooh, that's a great question from Claire. That's actually a really good one. And also that one's actually pretty easy to answer, but the answer is a little bit in depth. So, interestingly enough, Ukraine and Russia both faced the issue of the Soviet command structure in 2014 during the Donbass conflict and the annexation of Crimea, because by that point, the Ukrainian army had not been reformed, and so it was still working off the Soviet command structure. But there's an inherent flaw within Soviet command and leadership that everyone knows about, and it's something that would easily be exploited in a full-on confrontation in between Russia and the Western world. The Russians don't have a strong NCO corps of non-commissioned officers. There really aren't any non-commissioned officers, and it goes back to their army being a largely conscript force, and because it's so intolerable and unbearable within the lower ranks, within the enlisted for the large part in those conscript forces, that no one ever tries to enlist for longer periods of time. Everyone does their minimum amount of time, which is what contract Nikis, well, not contract Nikis, I forgot what they are called, but it's what the little enlisted guys do. They serve for 1 year. Which is bizarre. That's crazy, because their training takes up about half the time they're in the service these days. And so they train for 6 months, then they're actually in the service for 6 months, and then they're out, and no one ever extends their contract, hardly ever. So you never end up getting any kind of experienced non-commissioned officers that actually have gotten the hang of the ropes and know what they're doing and can advise field grade officers, you know, like lieutenants and such things like that, or their equivalent in the Russian army on what would be the best approach forward. And not only that, there is no leadership for those new enlisted coming in from other more senior enlisted members because no one's ever around that long. So you end up having this giant bulk of inexperienced and green conscripts, and then you have this massive core of field grade officers. It is an endless stream of them that have absolutely no experience as well and are completely green. And so as far as the field command goes, we're not talking about general staff kind of command at this point. We're just generally talking about field command. Everyone is green. There is no one that's experienced on the battlefield. There's no one that really knows how things go, like how things would best go. And so everyone's just trying to figure it out as they go. The field officers are, as well as the enlisted. Also, because of that, because of this complete lack of NCOs in the Russian army that just don't exist, the officers, like the lieutenants, they end up filling up the roles of the sergeants. So then you have these people just out of officer school in Russia, or officer cadet school, which is what it's called, and they go straight into commanding a platoon. And they have no idea how a platoon works in reality or in practice or anything like that. And so you have all of this friction that's being caused from the inexperience of the enlisted and the inexperience of their platoon commanders, which is a lieutenant grade. And so it's insane inefficiency at that point. And that's something that a lot of people don't credit, is that NCO, a strong NCO corps is the backbone of most Western armed forces around the world, because the NCOs are able to be leadership for the lower enlisted, and not only that, they're able to advise brand new field grade officers on how things usually go. And that is a huge thing that creates a lot more efficiency in Western militaries than in Russian ones. But because of that, because of this greenness, because this is really where all of the inefficiency comes in. Because of this greenness of the officers, there's never a way to actually get the hang or get the ropes of what's going on, and also any way to try and learn how things really work and have an actual realistic mindset on how a battlefield would unfold. And so what happens is that these inexperienced green field officers never learn or really develop as commanders. They just kind of come in with their original mindset and they keep it, because there's no one to really mold or change their mindset, and the trial and error process is never learned from, because these people go through trial and error, and there's no way for them to actually impart these lessons onto enlisted non-commissioned officers that are going to be sticking around for a while, and then have that taught to everyone else that comes through, and pretty much have an endless amount of learning going on. That doesn't happen in the Russian army. So then these green field grade officers get promoted up the ranks, and then they end up making up the actual general staff of the armies, and they're still as inexperienced and green, at least on their command decision making at that point when they're in the general staff, as they were as a field grade officer. And so then you have the general staff living in this fantasy land of these unrealistic kind of objectives and offensive goals or defensive goals, and then they issue that down the line from their green inexperienced kind of a leadership level down to those green inexperienced field grade officers, and then those green unexperienced field grade officers pass that down to the completely unexperienced green enlisted members. And so it's a completely green and unexperienced armed force from the top down. And that's what's largely led to the unbelievable inefficiencies and also failures of the Russian army, and also the incredibly high casualties they take along every single step of the way. Because they just do not have, like, the army itself has no experience, and it has no way to absorb and pass on experience from one group to the next that, of course, generationally come in and out of the military. So I hope that does address it the best I can. That was probably the most butchered way I could explain that, but probably the best way I could given the time constraints. But still, a huge thanks, Margaret Hemsley, for sponsoring that live chat from Claire. I hope that was a fairly good answer, or what you were largely looking for, Claire, because that may be the best way I can explain it, at least at the moment. But still, huge thanks once again. And also, Jexa, you're right. I'm saying field grade. Those are colonels and generals. You are right. It's company grade. Let me make sure on that really quickly. Let me pull that up. Field grade. So let's see. What does it mean to be field grade? Officer in the next 3 bay grades, 04 to 06, are usually considered field grade. So yes, that is largely correct. Major, lieutenant colonels, and colonels are field grade. What I'm talking about is company grade. So you are correct. So sorry about that correction to that, but it's still replacing field grade with company grade through that entire explanation. I hope it does make sense. But with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well, and we are on to the next one.
And like I saw Claire say in the live chat, it's Private Conscriptovich. That's who they are. But anyways, moving on. What was that?
Oh, yes, he is. But moving on.
Oh, yes, man. It sounded like he said. I was like, what the hell does that sound like? That lunchtime tied to a tree, like making those sounds. But anyways, moving on to our next one here, we have a $50 support from Andy L. Once again, a huge shout out to you, Andy, for that support. He said, "Join us."
Join us. Join us. Yeah, join us. Why not? Subscribe. It's a great place to be. Everyone always has fun here. And so please, do subscribe. You'll enjoy it here for a long time. My voice is cracking so bad tonight. But still, thank you so much once again for support, Andy L, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And we are on to the next one. And also, thank you, JC the Music Man, for the compliment there. And with that, what do we got for the next one, Matthew?
All right, and our next one here is going to go to, well, let me scroll down to it. This one's going to go to Duncan VR, who put in a $10 donation, and thank you very much, Duncan, as well. And also, by the way, if anyone here is new that's listening right now, Duncan puts in the animal noises. I'm reading this from the super chat. I'm not going berserk or nuts or bonkers. It's what Duncan said. He said, Bamuba, quack, quack, moo. Mr. H says, fast 999, Gazleek He said, I get no respect around here. And the Marmon says, Governor, get the heck out of here. Baba, oh man, I'm telling you, the fly ball.
And I got to say, thank you so much for your support, Duncan VR, and throwing in those animal noises. We are greatly appreciative of the support, the traditional animal noises. It would not be a night on this channel without those animal noises. So a huge shout out to you once again. A huge thanks to you. I hope we addressed it incredibly well, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to James Dunn, who puts in a 5. He says, okay, but that is a war crime if they don't pay for it. Article 33 covers this. You can steal or damage civilians' properties.
And I thank you so much for the support, James Dunn. But I don't think police vehicles serve as civilian property. That is property of the Russian government, or more so a apparatus of the Russian government. So technically, that would be easily seized, and they wouldn't have to pay for that at all. Because the Ukrainian police, much like the Russian police, much like the Ukrainian police, can be converted into a light infantry force. So technically, they are paramilitary, well, not paramilitary, they're armed combatants, but they're paramilitary in nature. So you can seize their equipment and vehicles without any trouble, from what I understand. But still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. With that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to James Dunn, who puts in a $5 donation. He says, it would be funny if Elon bricked it, talking about a Cybertruck, bricked it remotely, now that he knows that they have it.
That would be funny if he did. I think he should. I think that would be great, just seeing that goofy Cybertruck lock up in the middle of that stupid parking lot they have for the presidential palace. I think that would be great. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to CK Bold, who puts in a 5 and says, take a live chat question. Excuse me. And we will take a live chat question, CK Bold. And this one is going to go to Edward Casey Jr., who said, did Putin threaten Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia not to join Ukraine, or they'll be next?
He's really threatened everyone in Eastern Europe like that, so yes, he has threatened them just like that. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you once again for sponsoring that live chat, and we are on to the next one.
And this next one here goes to Big Daddy Jason Williams, TBO, who puts in a 5. And thank you thank you very much, Jason, for that support. He said, is it true that if Russian soldiers die in Ukraine, their family gets death benefits, but if they die in Russia, they get nothing?
It's absolutely true. It is actually true. But the thing is that it's kind of morphed into the Russian government doesn't have enough money to pay for anyone's death. So even if you die in Ukraine, you really don't get paid in that instance either. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least from what I understand, Big Daddy. And thank you once again for support, Big Daddy, and helping this channel to keep on running, Big Daddy. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Jack Ray, who puts in a 5 and says, in Dune, the spice must flow. In Russia, the vodka must flow.
Actually, you get it wrong. In Russia, they have this thing, Jack Ray, called crocodile, and it is their version of spice. And so they still say in Russia, the space must flub, yet, or better yet, the crocodile must flub, yet. But still, I see what you're saying, though, Jack Ray. I appreciate it, and I do think it's pretty funny. But with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address it incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to DJ Waffle, and they put in a $5 donation. And thank you very much, DJ Waffle, for that support. He said, I'm just getting home from work. Can you give an update?
Yes, I can try and give one as quickly and as annotated as I can. Ukraine broke the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade today. They also destroyed the last usable bridge over the Reka Seym. The Ukrainians also captured a T-80B VM. We got proof of the helicopter getting shot down. More prisoners were taken. It appears that the situation in the Avdiivka front is still a little difficult. The Russians are advancing little by little every single day, but the Ukrainians are inflicting high losses. They say the nuclear power plant's in somewhat bad shape, and those are really the big points of today. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for support, DJ Waffle, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one right here goes to Russia, Nats C, who puts in a 5. Let's see here. Oh dear, what in the world? Enforcer, what about this one? Are you seeing this?
I have seen that, actually. I'm not lying. That's a real thing he's talking about right there. We're not going to read that. But yes, I did see that, and it appears that Russian will be mooing no longer. But still, with that, I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and real quick, hold on just a second. Let me go back and check something here. Let me see if I missed one. Let's see. Yeah, scrolling back up here. That's the sound of scrolling. Let's see here. Let's see. Scrolling. I'm scrolling all the way up. Let's see here. LSA Rocks says there's one in here. I'm not seeing it. Let me go back through one more time and look. Enforcer, are you seeing that one from LSA Rocks? Because I'm not seeing it.
Let's see. Oh, look, a strawberry. I'm not seeing it. Hang on, let me look through the actual YouTube spreadsheet.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I might have misread it when I glanced at it a second ago. I thought he said don't forget mine, but he said don't forget the mine guy at Enforcer.
Oh, my lord.
I was worried for a minute. I was like, where the hell does Super Chat go? He's talking about the mine guy. He wasn't talking about mines. So anyways, with that, thank you very much, LSA Rocks. Thank you very much. We're moving on here to our next one, which goes to Butchie777, who puts in a 10-pound donation. Very heavy donation. And thank you very much, Butchie, for that support. Also, LSA Rocks said, no, I meant the guy that blew himself up. Sorry, LSA Rocks. I misread that. I glanced at it. But Butchie put in a super sticker, and it says wrecked. And it shows that hippo getting busted on the ground from that chair.
That hippo freaking died, dude. Like, that hippo broke its neck and died in that super sticker. Oh my god. That's the most violent super sticker I've ever seen. That thing stuck its tongue out and everything. It's dead. It went to like the Family Guy death pose and everything. I gotta say, Butchie777, that is my favorite super sticker yet. I've never seen that one. But still, thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Ants the Man, who puts in a 5. It says, you said you son of a bitch. He said, I think people that complain are just threatened by you guys, and rock on.
And thank you so much for the support, Ants the Man. And people who do complain about us, I don't know why. I really don't. I don't know, like, first off, I know why some people do, because for some reason they just hate us, like the hot dog man, like I know why they do that. It's just raw hatred. But other people who do, I guess we do threaten them or something, because no one ever had anything good to say about us off the bat, pretty much, like once they started to deal with us. But we always had good stuff to say about them. Like, you know, like until later on. Like now I don't really have much good to say about anyone anymore because we've had to end up dealing with them. But I remember I used to tell people on different channels like, hey, I enjoy your content. It's really well put together. It's really well researched. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. I mean, there's one specific person out there. I literally wrote like an entire essay email to them when I was inviting them on their show. And it was nothing but nice things, nothing but compliments and praise about their work and what they were doing. And then right after they were a guest on their show, on our show on the year's anniversary of the war, and they got off that show. The next day, they went on to someone else's show as a guest, and they absolutely dogged on our show, like how we brought them on, like how little time they had. They complained about everything, and it was crazy to me to see that, because it's like, we brought you on. Really, we built that guy's channel, because in that 1 week from that one plug of being on our show, the guy went from 50,000 subs to 72,000 subs. He gained like 22,000 new subscribers because of our plug that we gave him on our show. And then he just wanted to crap on us after that, although I had nothing good to say about the I had everything good to say about the guy, was treating him as nice as we could. And then the guy went and did that. Like, it's really like,
that's terrible,
yeah,
terrible.
Yeah, how we've been treated doing this so far for no reason. Like of course we've had to deal with this influx of people going, well, if everyone's an asshole, look in the mirror, it must be you. It's like, yeah, I would think that would be a good point, but it's like, you know, when you go out of your way to treat people nice at the start, and you literally you don't even offend anyone, you go out of your way to make sure not to offend them or get on anyone's bad side and just treat them well. People still shit on you. It's like, there's very, very rude people out here. But anyways, with that, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, and we will make sure to rock on. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and speeding up just a little bit here, because we're running overtime, this one goes to Jack Ray, who puts in a 5 and says, no to Russians. It's don't have a cow, man. Don't have a cow.
And thank you for the support, Jack Ray. Hope the show keep it running. I had to scroll through the spreadsheet to find that one. And I would agree. I would agree with that completely. So with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one here goes to Vulture 1066, who puts in a 5 and says, keep up the good work, and 1 for the chat.
And thank you so much for wanting us to keep up the good work, Vulture. And we will make sure to take one from the chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
And this one goes to the real Zach B, who says, any updates on the about 700 troops trapped from the bridge strikes?
We haven't gotten any updates yet, but we do understand that they are trapped at the moment. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat here is going to go to IR Travis, who puts in a 5 and says, no 30% taken on Sunday, question mark.
No, there is no 30% taken on Sunday, because super chats are what 30% is taken out of, but on Sunday we run fundraisers, and so y'all aren't throwing in super chats, y'all are throwing in donations to a fundraiser. So YouTube doesn't deduct anything out of that donation. They send 100% of your money to that nonprofit. So if you put in $10 as a donation to a fundraiser we're running on Sunday, that $10 goes to that nonprofit. If you throw in a $10 super chat to this channel to help us to keep this channel running, YouTube will deduct $3 out of that $10 super chat. That's how that works. And so I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, huge shout out to Opus for putting in a $5 donation. And we appreciate that, Opus. And thank you very much for helping to keep us running. And with that, we're moving on to our next one here, which goes to Jay Bagwell, the channel legend, who puts in a $5 donation. And Jay says, dictators in cars getting goat milk. Episode 1 dropped today.
I know
that's like a play on like Jerry Seinfeld in cars with comedians getting coffee. I like that. I like that. A good play on it. But Enforcer, what say you?
That was good. That was pretty good, dude. I saw that. I was like, dude, that's gold. Gold, Jerry, gold. But still, thank you so much once again for support. Jay Bagwell, legend of the channel. Thank you for that. And also, that was a pretty genius one right there, too. I actually got a good laugh out of that. But with that, we are on. Wait a minute, hang on, Matthew. I got a good laugh out of that. Oh, I guess you could say they're dictators in cars getting goat milk. Oh! You know, like, oh, man. Yeah, well, we crack ourselves up sometimes. But anyways, with that, thank you so much once again. We are on to the next one.
And the next one here goes to Damian Hatfield, who puts in a 2. He said, howdy. How are you feeling, Enforcer?
I'm feeling
I guess I'm just chopped liver over here. Didn't ask how I was feeling. Thanks, Damian.
Well, I'm feeling pretty good, and I thank you, Damian. And Matthew's feeling a lot better, too, tonight. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Elka Sir, who puts in a 2 and says, how many new prisoners do you think would join the FRA?
Maybe a small amount of them. I'm assuming out of the thousands, maybe a couple of dozen of them would. But most of them are probably just going to decide to sit it out in the prisoner of war camp. It's going to be an easier life for them that way. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Thank you once again for support. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Ants the Man, who puts in a 2. He said, what did his comrade say in Russian?
I don't know, because I don't really speak Russian that well. I can read it a little bit, I can write it a little bit, I can speak it a little bit, but I can't understand, like, fluent conversational Russian, even still. But with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the final super chat, and then we're going to be getting on into some live chats. So what do we got, Matthew?
And this one goes to Sneak Gaming, who puts in a 2. It says, Slav Ukraine.
And Slav Ukraine, and thank you so much for the support. Sneak Gaming, how about the channel to keep on running? Because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into our live chats. Matthew, we're going to be getting one Morse code decoder of the stream, only one of them. You can't read them all off, you got to pick one. I'm kidding, read them all off. But still, we're going to get that one Morse code decoding, and then we're going to get 3 questions from the chat, because we are starting to go overtime. And Matthew is very, very sleepy, and so am I. And I'm also getting a little bitty hungry. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so tonight we had the Morse code decoders of the stream. It was Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J., Paul Schultz, and David Millsaps. They said the Morse for tonight says, the 810th broke for the first time. Even the reinforcements will not stand a chance. And long live the LSA, and great job, guys.
And that's the sound of money. And y'all got that dead on the nail. Y'all got that Morse code message correct. Even if the 810th can break, anyone can break. Spinal, real bad. But still, thank you so much once again for getting that Morse code correct on the 906th day of the war. And with that, we're on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to LSA Rocks, who says, any news on the Sandspit area since the One Life? I think down by Odessa area.
The Kinburn Spit, we have not gotten a lot of news on that. It appears the Ukrainians are still controlling this area. We haven't heard of the Russians reclaiming it. And so it seems as though a small Ukrainian operation is happening near the area of the Kinburn Spit, probably to free up the navigation of the Pokrovsk Gulf. Although I stuttered that really badly, screwed it up. I have a Sama, the king speaks. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address it incredibly well. And with that, we're on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to your boy Troy, who says, do you think the earthquake and tsunami that hit Russia is going to have an effect on anything?
I don't think it's going to have an effect on anything. From what I understand, it hit the eastern coast of Russia, and there's really nothing out there. There's nothing really out there of value, and so I don't think it's going to actually cause any real damage. But there is the Sea of Okhotsk, which sounds kind of like Oshkosh. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. I thank you so much once again for asking a very interesting live chat question. And with that, Matthew, I understand that someone's throwing in a super chat to get their live chat answered. And so I believe this is us moving on into the final question of the night. And so who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
All right, so it looks like Deuce threw in a $2 donation, their first ever super chat on the stream, and said, answer my live chat. Deuce, I don't have your live chat. If you'd put in the super chat, I could have called it off. But sadly, I don't have it. Oh, whoa. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So, Enforcer, do the thing.
And who is lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Deuce. He says, would you compare Putin's problems in Ukraine to the downfall of the Wu dynasty in China?
Man, when that dynasty fell, everyone went, woo! Like, I'm just kidding. But to answer that question, a little bit, I would assume that it probably does look a little similar. But I hate to say this, Deuce. You're asking me about a part of history that falls within my outer periphery, largely something that I wouldn't know much about. Because while I know a good bit about modern Chinese history beyond the collapse of the Qing, the creation of the Republic of China, and then their subsequent demise, exile to Taiwan, and the creation of the People's Republic of China, and everything from that point forward, I don't really know a lot about the Wu Dynasty era, or really any other era of Chinese history for that matter. Really any others, like literally any other dynasty beyond the Qing Dynasty and the Republic of China, the PRC and all that, I wouldn't know much about. So sadly, while I would love to answer that question and say that it is very similar, I don't really know enough historical parallels in between the two to say that it is with enough certainty to be knowledgeable on it. However, I will say that the issues that Putin is going through right now certainly do seem to be the ones that the French went through before the French Revolution, with the government, of course, within economic throes because of the massive costs and finance required to fight multiple wars, and not only that, the quality of life within the home country beginning to decline because the government is not focusing enough on civil duties, they are focusing entirely on martial duties, which seems to be a lot of what's happening in the Russian Federation, or what started to happen during the collapse of the German Empire at the later end of World War I. That would also be quite similar in my opinion as well. To give historical parallels that I would know enough about to say I'm seeing some parallels in that instance. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, Deuce. Thank you for throwing in a super chat and supporting this channel, and also sponsoring the final live chat of the night. But with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank every single one of y'all so much once again for watching. We are entirely honored and incredibly appreciative and grateful to have each and every one of y'all. here every single night. We have had 106,000 people here who have watched this channel since the beginning. There are still 5,600 of y'all here, and at the peak there was about 13.1 thousand people watching the stream at one point. Of course, I thank you all so much once again for watching, and make sure to join us tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, and to also run our Sunday night fundraiser. And so with that, good night, good luck, stay safe, take care, and Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
Yes, indeed. And with that, folks, thank you all for another great stream once again tonight. I'm glad that we're feeling pretty much back to normal for the most part, at least 75% back to normal for me, and the Enforcer sounds like he's all the way back to normal, so that's good. It was just a little momentary little thing. But with that, we'll see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern on the next Nightly War News stream. And also, if there's enough news to cover, midday for the video tomorrow. But we'll have to see if we have enough news, though, because it looks like the Ukrainians are getting really good with their OPSEC, so good that we don't have the news to cover midday. We have to wait till the end of the day for the stream. So we'll have to see tomorrow. But with that, Slava Ukraine, Heroam Slava, and of course, we'll see you all tomorrow night, and get some rest, and good night.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards